But yeah, like I said, right before we sat down and pushed record, I'm very excited you guys came out today, because this is a story that a lot of people need to hear. And, kind of like you guys came to me when we met at Black Rifle, and you're like, hey, you were one of the voices that kind of helped me take that next step. And bro, we all need that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all need that encouragement to take that next step. And, I was just talking to the Forge Ferocity team meeting guys this morning, right before you got here. And one thing that kept coming up is like, hey, when I'm ready to take that next step into a business adventure or whatever it is, sometimes the people closest to you, your girlfriends, your moms, your wives, are kind of like, are you crazy? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. And the ironic thing is I think people that are kind of want you to be apprehensive of taking a big life step, that's coming from a place of love, right? But at the same time, it's kind of stifling you.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, dude, mom wants you to be comfortable. And while you guys were police officers, maybe you were uncomfortable in some aspects of life, but you were also like, that paycheck's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
You got good benefits, and you can kind of coast on that while all simultaneously being fucking miserable inside.
Exactly.
We were just talking about that on the way over here, and it's like, you get stuck where it's like, oh no, this job allows me to do the things that I want to do. It's a decent paycheck. Like, I get all the time off I want, but the baggage that it carries around with you, even on your days off, because you could take 4 days off and have 12 days off. But then what are you doing with those 12 days off? You all your buddies are at work, or like you don't get the freedom out of it. And we were talking how taking that leap and becoming entrepreneurs, and I feel like I'm working way more than I ever have in my entire life right now. But it's free. There's a freedom to it.
Yes, dude.
Like I feel like I'm busting it. Like we talk about this time, like we're just never catching a break, but it's rewarding in a sense that there's a freedom that we're doing it ourselves.
Well, dude, when you are going to sink or swim 100% on your actions, that in itself is freeing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm not relying on any other man to see my success.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am. I know what I have to do, and it's either going to work or it's not.
Right.
And when you know that, there's something in the back of your mind. It's like, well, if I know that if I don't put the work in, I'm going to fail, you're going to put the work in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
And so people listening have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. So you know how I like to do the show. You guys found me because of the show.
Yeah.
I also like doing episodes with guys that found me from the show.
Yeah.
It's just kind of neat watching it go full circle, But yeah, like I mentioned, we met at Black Rifle Kalispell for their grand opening. You kind of shared your story. I think the best way for listeners to understand the path that you guys are on is just introduce yourselves, talk about like where you came from, what led you into the professional law enforcement. And then we'll take a deep dive into that phase where it's like, hey, this is working for me, but I need something bigger.
Yeah.
I need something more.
Sure.
Because that's the empowering part that a lot of people, they're standing on that stepping stone saying, it's time, but these are all the reasons why I'm not going to take that step.
Oh yeah. There's so many, there's always more reasons not to than to do it for the most part,
Yeah.
So yeah, just like, I guess both you guys just introduce yourself and just give a little bit of background, and then we'll just hop into the story, man.
Yeah, you got it. Don't mind me if I take up a little bit of time with this. I just want to give you guys a background of who I am.
Long format, dude.
Yeah, let's do it. So my name's John Fontaine, originally from Minnesota. Austin and I are both from Minnesota. But yeah, so this whole thing started, well, let's go back to when I was 17, when I enlisted in the Army. So I did that. I went into the infantry. I was 11 Bravo. So I was down in Georgia for basic. And I got stationed at Fort Carson with 1st Battalion, 12th Infantry Regiment with 4th ID. And
I love Fort Carson.
Fort Carson's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It was rad. Like, I know there's a lot of places you can get stuck in that are just armpits in the U.S. So I was really thankful that I got stuck at Carson. So I was out there and shortly deployed. Like, I was there for maybe a couple months, and then we went to JRTC, Fort Polk for training, and I took off for Afghanistan shortly after. I spent most of 2012 in Kunar province.
Okay.
Up there. So yeah. And this will all tie together on where I'm just going to my really backstory, because Austin and I are both combat vets, and Jake is as well, the other owner who's not here. But yeah, spent most of 2012 in Afghanistan. You know, I was 19 over there and turned 20 and just really grew up at a young age, right? Just going through some shit. And
it's crazy to think about being 19, 20, 21, because I was in Afghanistan at 21 as well. And then you look at 21-year-olds these days and they feel like children.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's not a dig at the next generation. It's just that when we were their age, life was very different.
Right. No, absolutely. It was crazy because, you know, we first roll in and, you know, like the first day, like I earned my CIB, right?
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was good. It was just some pop shots and, you know, we got into some good tick and all that. But, you know, we, when I really experienced it, we had to go do a refit over at Fob Bostic, and it was right on the river out there. And,
is it the Kunar River?
Yeah. Kunar River.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was up there too.
Okay. Yeah. So we were, I don't know if you're familiar with, Cop Pirtle King at all. So it was just like 3 clicks down the river from Fob Bostic, but we went out there and, we were just doing a refit, right? And one morning we were sitting there, and again, I'm sorry, I'm going way back in time. You know?
Paul, bro, this can be a 4-hour show if we want.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah.
People love hearing about our veterans and deployments, and that shit's important because all Americans went through that phase of the war on terror, but a lot of people never had a front row seat to it. Yeah. So dive as deep as you want, man.
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, spent some time out there, and, you know, we got hit with, this one day. It was just crazy. We went to bed early because we're on the vampire schedule. Yeah. And, we were sitting out there just going to bed, and all of a sudden we just heard some explosions go off. And then the loudest explosion of my life, a recoilless rifle hit our 155 ammo point and just blew that whole base to shit. And, you know, I remember going out there and we were walking around cleaning up stuff, and some guys got killed and all that. But this first sergeant's like, he's like, "What do you think, Private Fontaine?" Because I'm 19, right? And I'm like one of the youngest dudes out there. And I'm like, "Man, this war is really real," right? And I just started growing up from a really young age at that point. And, you know, went back to Opi Barilai, where we spent most of our deployment on top of this mountain. And at some point, I'm like, what am I doing here? Right. Everything it was like Groundhog Day every day for me. It's like, you're just getting in ticks and all that. And like, what is the enemy's purpose here? Like, we were trained in the Afghan National Army. That was the process of it for my deployment, because I was there in 2012, right? Yeah. And we were just pretty much teaching the ANA how to, you know, use their weapons, tactics, and all that, because we were leaving. Coalition forces were leaving that area. So, you know, I spent some time up there on that mountain for, you know, 6 months out of that deployment. And then we got off, and I got back home, and I had some goals in the Army. You know, I wanted to be a Green Beret. That was my ultimate goal. But I'm like, I need to get my Ranger tab. And so I went to Ranger school, ended up failing that. And I was like, what the fuck, man? How did I just fail? I failed push-ups. I was stuck at 4.
Because the reason I'm laughing is because I'm looking at you right now. You're certainly a good athlete.
No, yeah, right.
You know?
Appreciate it.
So was it a mental thing then, you think?
No, I was stuck at 46. I wouldn't get above 46.
Oh, he was no repping you?
That exactly. I was no repping, yeah. And I said, what the fuck is this about? So then I didn't have a mentor in the Army. You know, I was young, and the guys I deployed with, great fucking dudes, right? And when I got back, they all either had to go be like recruiters or like drill sergeants and all that.
Yeah, that's something that the regular Army, they can pull you for duties at any time.
Yeah. So we lost our guys, and I just felt like that tribe was gone. A new group of guys came in. And so when I failed Ranger school, it's like, well, fuck this, dude. I'm just going to I want to be a Green Beret. Fuck the tab. I'll go to selection. So I get back and I go talk to the SF recruiter. And he's like, hey, you need a GT score of 110. And I'm like, what is that? You know, I thought,
11 Bravo.
Yeah. What is this? I have an ASVAB score, and I think it's like a 97. It's not 97. Sorry. My GT score is 97.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, go to GT prep school, and we'll get you good to go there, get your score up so you can go to selection in August. I'm like, sweet. So I ended up going to GT prep school. Didn't know my place of duty was GT prep. Well, I got pulled from my unit. They're like, hey, we're going in the field. So we're out in the field for a few weeks, and all that stuff's going on. And I come back and I take my test, and I failed my score. I was just slightly under it. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Nothing's working out, you know? And again, I didn't have a mentor. And I was like, at this point, there's just a lot of other things that were going on. And I'm like, I'm failing at everything I want to do in the military. That was my ultimate goal. I wanted to be a Green Beret. I wanted to do a career in it. I wanted to be surrounded by studs, right? And I remember seeing the 10th group guys pull up to the range one day. We're shooting some long distance at Carson, and these guys in their Jeep pulled up, and their POV and all that. And they're just wearing their like ball caps and look fucking cool. And here I am. I thought I was cool as 11 Bravo, you know, my full battle rattle, they call it. And these guys get out and they're just like, "What's up, dude?" You know, grabbing their sniper rifles and like civilian clothes and their multicam pants. Oh my God, these guys are so cool. I want to do that.
Bro, isn't it funny? The littlest things when you're in seem so cool.
Yeah.
Because like when I left the regiment, I went into the Army Reserves, and I was in a reservist unit right down the street from 2nd Battalion. And we had a range day, right? And they said, "Hey, each soldier is going to be allocated this much ammunition." And I was like, "What?" I forget what it was, but it wasn't even, it was literally you'd be on the firing line for like maybe 1 or 2 iterations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, "Is this how the reserves train?" And I walked up to the NCOIC. I said, "I literally just ETS from 2nd Battalion, 2 blocks down the street. I know the supply sergeant. I'll just drive down there. How much ammo do you want?" And the guy's like, "What?" Because ammo in Ranger Regiment is just like, it's barely even accounted for.
Yeah.
And so I drove down there in my Mustang and talked to the staff duty officer. They threw 5,000 rounds in the trunk.
No shit.
And I drove to the range, and everyone's like, "Dude, you just transported ammo in a POV. You can't do that, you know?"
Sure.
But it's different. Like you said, it's different worlds.
Yeah, different worlds, man.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting out of the Army in 2014, and just like I said, I didn't have the mentality anymore, and things weren't working out for me. And I'm not saying I'm playing the victim mindset, but I'm like, I'm done with it. Right. There's a bunch of other stuff like, dude, like working CQ or staff duty for 24 hours. Right. And then all of a sudden, like, "Hey, somebody needs to go work the chow hall." I'm like, "Bro, I've been up for fucking 24 plus hours."
Army don't care.
They don't care. And so I drew the short straw, and then I had to go work the chow hall and work the cash register for the next 2 hours. And it's super funny. I'm tired. All right. I've been up. I did PT the day before, and I sat at a desk for 24 hours, and now I'm working in chow hall chair, the cash register, and I have cooks standing around looking at me, and I'm like, "Hey, can you help? Like, there's a line out the door." Like, "No, man, we got to make sure you're doing you're doing everything correct." Right. And I said, "Well, fuck that." I'm like, "Hey, everybody with a meal card, come on in. Let's go." Right. So all these staff sergeants and sergeants like, "Are you fucking kidding me, private?" Or no, I was a specialist at the time, but I'm like, "Dude, I'm the only one working this entire chow hall right now. And I just got off staff duty." I'm like, "No, I'm going to make this fucking easy." But anyway, just little things like that, man. It was the big Army stuff, right?
Well, bro, and that's why I tell young men that are interested in going into the military. And dude, I love the 2-4, 2-5, the infantry, Marine Corps infantry battalions, the 82nd, the 101st. Like, we worked with all those guys overseas, and they're good dudes, right?
Yeah.
But those units are inevitably going to be micromanaged at a higher level. And if you're someone that's going in with aspirations of trying to get into the special operations, or you want to do bigger things, that stuff can start to kill your soul, man.
That's exactly what it did. Yeah.
And I heard the story a lot, because when you get RFS'd from battalion, released for standards, like if you're at Ranger Battalion and you fail push-ups, you're going to go what they call down the street to like 3rd ID or whatever. And I heard from a lot of friends, they're like, "Bro, when we clean weapons, we have to have an NCO talk us through weapons maintenance each time." Whereas in battalion, hey, we get off the range 7, we walk back to the barracks, we order a pizza, a case of beer, and we clean our saws while we watch Braveheart.
Oh, cool.
It's just little shit like that that we took for granted. That's just how we do business.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys struggled going like to where every single task was micromanaged.
Yeah.
It's tough, man.
It is. Yeah. So I saw it for what it was, and I'm like, man, I just don't think I'm meant to be in the military. You know, as much as I want to say I was a great soldier and I enjoyed it, it just wasn't working out for me. So I got out in 2014, moved back home to Minnesota, and I went to the university right away. So I was going to college, and I saw that the police department was opening up some job applications, or they had some job positions opening. Sorry, I'm kind of retarded sometimes. I got TBIs. So anywho, So yeah, I went on a ride along and I'm like, man, I could see myself doing this job. My grandpa was a retired cop, and I'm like, yeah, I could do this. So I got hired with the Superior Police Department back in Wisconsin, and started doing that job. And I was going to school full time to get my bachelor's as well. So that was a journey right there in itself. And about a year and a half into that job of law enforcement, I knew that I didn't want to do it. I just everything became mundane. You know, they say every day is, and it's different in law enforcement. Yeah, it sure it is. But a lot of the calls are very repetitive, right? Especially in the area that I was. It was a smaller town. It was like 30,000 people, but you're just dealing with 5% of the population. And I didn't feel like I was growing. So I jumped ship to the county because I lived in the county. So I was a deputy out there for a couple of years, and I did enjoy it there. And just a little bit more my style, being out in the country, driving around, and really enjoyed it there. But I found myself feeling like I wasn't growing, and I got actually to a really dark place as a cop, especially working graveyards by myself. You know, there's like half the time there's only 2 deputies on, and you're working at nighttime and you're in your head, right? I'm just driving around, and then you just sit there on the side of the road and like you start thinking, right? And that's when I saw your video that went viral. This is like right when the pandemic, I like to call it.
It was May 5th of 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was we were just moving out to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, because I got a job with Kootenai County. And I'm like, man, all right, let's jump ship now. Maybe the grass is greener over there, right? But I wanted to move out west because I lived in Colorado. And my wife and I went on vacation in Idaho in 2019, and we fell in love with it. Like, let's move out here. So I got a job at the sheriff's office in North Idaho. And I was working there, and I was just still watching that video, right? That went viral. And I started watching the podcast. And it's super funny because I watched one of your other videos. You were talking, and you had a second bat shirt on. And I'm like, of course this guy's a fucking ranger. Of course this guy's a fucking ranger. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. And so, yeah, man, you really, watching your journey really opened my eyes. I'm like, God, I don't want to do this. I'm mentally in a bad spot, really bad spot. I don't know what to do. And, you know, you talk about the pension trap, right? Being a cop, it's like, hey man, what else are you going to do, dude? What you got everything you need. You can retire, and, you know, at age 53, you're good, right? I'm like, no, dude, I can't do that.
Well, and how old were you at the time?
I was a cop at 23. And
so,
then,
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm always very careful when this topic comes up, because there are a lot of cops out there that still have the calling to serve and enjoy the profession. And if you're that person, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, we need good people to fill those billets.
Right.
But if you're not one of those people, and you served 1 or 2 or 6 years or 10, bro, you don't owe anybody anything. Right. And I know when I got out, I had some people kind of almost show disappointment. Like, you're leaving the profession. I heard one guy use the word abandoning the profession.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's people trying to keep you where they're at. Right. And bro, you were a cop for how many years overall? 6 years, right?
Yeah.
You gave 6 years of service. And I mean, yeah, you got compensated for it. Like, it was a job, but at the same time, you can't be a police officer for compensation. It has to be bigger than that.
Yeah.
Because you can make more money driving for UPS.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
And so
I looked at doing it.
That's what I'm saying. I looked at doing it too, because it's like, if I'm going to be out driving all day, dude, slinging packages will actually get me in and out of the car.
Yeah.
And it won't just be that monotonous sitting in body armor with your back and your knees starting to hurt. And it's weird how people try and attach like disappointment when you're ready to move on. But the truth is, if you stay when you're emotionally ready to move on, that's actually a disservice to your community.
Yeah. Right.
You know, you don't want to ever be that cop that's like, fuck, I don't want to put this uniform on.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna today.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not giving the community what they need.
Right.
You know,
that's what it started turning into. You know, I was 29 when I got out. And, you know, like I said, I was listening to you, and I'm like, if this guy can do it, like, he's motivating the fuck out of me that I can do it. Right. And so I'm like, what can I do? Like, what is my purpose? You know? And so it's funny. So Jake, I met him, who was the other owner of North Idaho Archery. We were down at his house shooting bows, and then we're just drinking some whiskey and all that. And we're talking about things that we can do. And then it just clicked because we were shooting our bows that day. It's like, dude, we should open up an archery shop, because we saw the market. There's literally no archery pro shop in Coeur d'Alene in the North Idaho area. You got some big box stores, but not an actual pro shop. So we just started brainstorming, right? And we went down to Arizona to the PSE archery school. We got our bow technician certifications. We got our instructor certifications, and things were rolling, right? And we were just, we had this brainchild, and we just continued to go down that path to get there. And I'm still copping at this time too. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Because we started out in our garage, but eventually, what got me out of law enforcement is one of my best friends from the Army is a real estate agent in North Georgia. And he's like, dude, a lot of cops get out and go into real estate, and they do very well in it.
I've seen that transition a handful of times myself.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so I'm like, oh man, really? I'll look into it. So I started looking into it, and I'm like, I could see myself doing this. Like, I've always had I've always been intrigued by being an entrepreneur. Always, like, to be my own boss. That's all. I think that's always been the case, right? And we'll touch base on that, the whole drive, right? Like, we're very driven people, and I feel like I've kind of always like, it's not good here. I want to make changes, but then you try to make changes, and it's like, no, I don't like that. It becomes toxic for some reason, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. So like, same thing in the military, you'll bring up some ideas and all that, and they're like, no, that's how it's always been, man. We're going to do this, this, and that. And the same thing with policing. So
that's how it's always been.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst phrases you'll hear in the Army, but you hear it a lot.
All the time. Yeah.
Because a lot of people are just reluctant to change.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where, and I'll touch on that here in a little bit, but so I went down to, this is where it's a funny story. And, there was a guns versus hoses hockey game. And, this is right before I'm getting out of law enforcement. I got like 2 weeks left. So I go down to the rink to get my skates sharpened. And, these two big guys come up to me, and they're like, why do you look so fucking mean, dude? I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm just getting my skates sharpened. They're like, we're just fucking with you, dude. We're trying to figure out if you're a cop or a firefighter. And I'm like, I'm a cop, but I'm actually getting out here in a couple of weeks. And they're like, what are you trying to do? I said, I'm actually going to real estate school, believe it or not. And they're like, no fucking way. Like, we're both real estate agents too. And Seth, who's my teammate now, he's a retired CHP trooper, California Highway Patrol. And then my buddy Jared, he was a retired firefighter down in Florida. And that's how it just kind of meant. I'm like, man, I think the universe is working, right?
That's right.
You know, this is cool. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I fully committed to real estate school, went there, passed everything. And this is where it got kind of fucky. Like, I knew I'm done with law enforcement. So, I passed my real estate school, and, the sheriff's, my sergeant and lieutenant are like, hey, come to briefing tomorrow. And I'm like, all right, sweet. Yep. I'll be there. Class A day, right? Yep. Dress up nice. So I get there, and, I'm not trying to throw shit at any agency and all that, but it just kind of fucked up how it worked. And again, why I needed to get out. So I get there, and, they're like, hey, meet us in the office after briefing. So I go to the office, and they're like, hey man, you got a couple options here. You can either walk away from the job right now, or you can stay here, but you're unfit for duty. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And, it all transpired from my neighbor one day. I was outside, and, I was throwing my dogs some balls and all that. And my neighbor walked by and started, pretty much getting in my face, cause my dogs were running at large in the median. And, it pretty much, I started cussing at the guy. I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, these dogs are not vicious by any means. And, he called the cops on me, my sheriff's office, and complained that, okay, one of your deputies just, cussed at me and all that. And so they said I was unfit for duty. I'm like, dude, I'm done. You know,
I was expecting you to say beat the shit out of the guy.
No, I called him a fucking dick. That's what I literally said. I called him a fucking dick.
Yeah, you're not on duty.
No, I'm not on duty.
Your neighbor being a fucking dick.
Yeah, he's being
a dick. A fucking dick.
He's calling my dogs vicious.
And bro, here's the thing, man. Like, a lot of chain of commands, and I'm sure both you guys will agree with this, they're your best friend when everything's going well. Mm-hmm. But when things aren't going well, suddenly hanging you out to dry is not a problem for them. And bro, in the world of law enforcement, you're going to go through hard times. Yeah. You need a chain of command that has your back, dude.
Right.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And that's when I knew, it's like, cause I was getting out, right? I came that day.
Well, bro, I'm assuming you had already expressed this to your chain of command.
They knew it. And I brought my 2 week notice in that day. I'm like, hey, I'm past everything. Give me 2 weeks. We'll be good to go. So they pretty much saw they're like, hey, this guy's getting out. Let's just fucking get rid of him right now.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what it came down to. And I'm like, I'm unfit for duty. Wow. So I'm like, yep, this is definitely meant for me to get out. So I got out, started pursuing real estate.
It's
and
the universe, bro.
Exactly. That's the universe. And I want to say that too. We'll talk about it. But so Jake and I'm doing real estate for a year, right? And I'm with your North Idaho agent in Coeur d'Alene, and it's fucking rad. Great group of dudes. We're all former military and former cops. So I just vibe really well with them, and it's just great culture, right? Like you can actually just be yourself, and there's cussing, and it's just a good time, right? It's just former cops and former military dudes all together. So it's been fun with them. But so Jake and I, fast forward now back to, I'm sorry, I go on little tangents here and there.
That's what we do.
That's what we do, right? So yeah, we get, I go on a hunt with Austin and our buddy J-Mac back from Minnesota. We're over in Montana, and this is where I spilled the beans about what's about to happen. And this is before, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but this is before I'm out of law enforcement still. And we were sitting down in a drainage, and I was talking to Austin and Austin and J-Mac, and my dudes, I'm getting out of law enforcement. And they're like, what? I'm like, yep, I'm getting out of law enforcement. I'm going to open up an archery pro shop. And because they're buddies with me back in Wisconsin that I copped with. And they're like, oh, dude, that's awesome. So that's where I kind of planted the seed with Austin there. And fast forward, that's probably another year or so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So you can kind of pick up from there. And then we'll just go from there.
Yeah. So I'm Austin Johnson. Grew up in Minnesota as well. Joined the Army when I was 17. I ended up joining the National Guard. I was a National Guard baby. Somewhat regret that decision. I wish I would have gone active duty, but I had a good experience in the Guard for the most part. I ended up doing about 15 years, and started out, man, I wanted to be in the infantry. Went to MEPS, found out that I'm colorblind. So I was like, oh, cool, okay. And then the recruiter's like, hey, you know what though? We need aviation operations specialists. And I was like, what is that? And he's like,
your eyes don't work well enough to shoot bad guys, but work on aircraft.
But so the 15 papaws, the MOS, and so like you have the tower at the airport, and like all the operations guys are up top. We were at the bottom of the tower doing like flight logs. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, but it's a good foot in the door. Like aviation's the way to be in the Army. And I was like, okay, yeah, all right, sure. And he's like, and you can always change your job after you've been in for a little bit. And I was like, dang, I drank it all. I was like, okay, let's go. And so I did it. It was miserable. I did not like that job at all. Not what I wanted to do. But he wasn't wrong, because it did open some doors in the aviation community. So I had been in for a couple of years, finally hit the time where I could change MOSs. So I requested a change to be a medic. I'm like, well, at least I can get with a line unit or something. I can still be a part of it. So I did, I got they allowed me to change. But I got put right back in the same unit as a medic in this aviation unit. And I was like, now I'm just doing flight physicals. I'm like, son of a gun, man. This is not what I want to do. But again, I was at annual training one year, and I took pride in my job though. I liked what I did. And I got approached and like, hey, Charlie Company 2 to 211th is a flight medic company. They're like, they're about to deploy, and they just lost a guy that can't go. He medical reasons he couldn't deploy. So they need a flight medic. And one of my NCOs was like, I put your name in the hat. So you're up. And I was like, oh shit. So
yeah, shit's about to get real.
Yeah. So he put my feet to the fire, and so I boarded for the position, and I ended up getting it. And this was June of 2012. And I was in country in October. So I did like a really fast train up. I had to do all my crew member training to be a crew member on a Black Hawk. So I did that, got that done, went to some medical courses before I left. And then I was in country, and it was a whirlwind. We were in RC West. So our whole medevac, we deployed as a medevac company. So we were stationed all over the West in different coverage rings. So all the way from like Herat and just a little north to Farah was like the south place we were at. But so I did a tour there. So this is kind of where it's all funny. It ties in. So I was there 12, 13. John was there the same year. Jake was there the same year. And then we just found out one of our other buddies was deployed the same year too. We're like, wow, this is crazy. We're all
in the same AO too, huh?
Yep.
And so
did you ever cross paths?
No, we didn't know each other at the time either, which is cool.
I've had those stories happen with guys that I've connected to after the fact. And it's like Greg Lappin's one of them who does Guns and Geese with me. He's like, bro, I'm pretty sure we were eating in the same chow halls at times. You know what I mean?
So cool.
It's wild, dude. So yeah, I get back and I had got out. My enlistment was up. I had done it just over 8 years at that point, and I was just kind of ready to be done. Wanted to move on with my life.
Well, bro, we can't just brush past being a flight medic in Afghanistan in 2012. I just did that and then I got out. I mean, 2012. I mean, I was there 2003, where it was like things were just starting to pick up. But I mean, by 2012. That was like the apex of the combat, right?
Yeah, so we pretty much covered, like John had said earlier, there was a lot of drawdown happening on the west side. They were training up and turning everything over to the ANA, ANP. So we worked a lot with the MARSOC guys, because they were out doing all the training and stuff like that. So that was kind of the biggest force in the area for us. And they'd go out and do like poppy eradication missions and stuff like that. But a small team would take out the ANA guys to kind of push them to do it themselves. And then they'd end up getting in ticks and getting all fucked up. And then we'd have to fly in and get them. And it could have been a lot busier, which I'm okay with. It wasn't.
Yeah.
We were busy enough as it was, but it was definitely not as busy as it could have been. So that was okay. And I'll say most of our patients were ANA. Okay. Just because of the low density of U.S. troops in the area. It was, most of the guys were special operations dudes. So, I mean, they were out handling their business.
And people don't understand, like, even when I was there in 2003, we called for medevacs for locals all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we had the resources there, and especially way up in Kunar where there's still landmines everywhere. I don't know if you guys saw much of that, but we had like locals, kids stepping on Russian landmines, and then we'd call medevacs for them. And that wasn't uncommon, you know? And so I think it's a good point to bring up, because it's like the Afghan people were actually, from my experience, they were in our corner.
Oh yeah.
You know, the Afghan people were appreciative of us being there. We worked with them and we allocated a lot of resources to trying to help them. Yeah. And I started to think that that's what deployment was like. Like, okay, there's some bad guys that we're targeting, but everybody else is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I went to Iraq, and it's like, everybody hated us.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a totally different thing. But the Afghan culture, from what I experienced, man, there's a lot of good people. Yeah. So it was a cool opportunity to be able to help those people. It sounds like you got a front row seat to that. So that's really powerful.
They were tough, man. They were tough people. And as you know, like, we would get guys, well, they like to, you know, ride around with like 15 of them in those Hilux trucks.
Yeah.
And then they'd always roll one every once in a while. And you're just like, dude, what the hell?
On those roads where they're so narrow that half of the tire is like hanging off a 500-foot cliff.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no thanks.
And they're just comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I remember on patrol, I would never wear a seatbelt, and I would always have it in the back of my mind, like, bailing out.
Yeah.
Just tuck and roll.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We, so it was a wild experience. I was 21 about that time. So a lot of growing up happened there. But yeah, so fast forward, I get home, didn't know really what my purpose was, you know, like I was like, well, maybe I'll take up law enforcement. Like I had always kind of wanted to do that when I was a kid. But I didn't know if I was ready yet. I was also doing rodeo at the time. I had started.
You're one of them, dude.
He's a bull rider.
I was.
I don't want to do jiu-jitsu with either of you then. Bro, I've done jiu-jitsu with a handful of bull riders, and they show up not knowing any jiu-jitsu, but they know base and balance and grip strength and what it takes to ride one of those wild animals converts over to fighting more efficiently than I think most people understand.
Maybe that makes sense. I guess I
Bro,
always wondered.
it's true, man. I had 2 guys in particular that rode bulls, and it's like they put their hands on you, and they are a fighter, even though they don't have any formal training. You know?
Awesome.
Well, yeah,
It is awesome.
every time you get back in the chute, it's a fight. You know?
God, dude.
I did that for on and off for probably 6 or 7 years. I wasn't any good, really. I've donated more money than I ever won. But I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, I was so passionate about it. I love the people. I love the whole experience of it, being in the arena, and you're not competing against each other for the most part in that sport, right? It's you against the animals, you know. And if I would get bucked off, I'd still be back there pulling the rope or in the chute helping a buddy out, you know, telling him to bear down and ride the son of a gun, you know, because at the end of the day, you want to see them win. But no, it was fun, and then I ended up we had our daughter, or my now wife, got pregnant, and so I'm like, I should probably find a career that's I could actually like make some money and
Support a family.
Yeah, because that wasn't working out for me. And so I did. I just kind of bounced around. I ended up doing some electrical work, which wasn't a great thing for a guy that's colorblind. I'd be in the closet, like, and it was just like low voltage stuff. So I was like installing security cameras and like badge readers in hospitals, and I'd be wiring these things up, and I'm like, oh damn. And then I'd send a picture to my wife. I'd be like, hey, does this look right?
No way.
I was like, just fake it till you make it, right? And I wasn't I'm a people person. I like being around people and being social, and so being stuck in a closet working on a panel by myself was not really where I wanted to be. Didn't want to do much medical stuff either after I got back. I just kind of had that cup was really full. So then I went back to school for law enforcement to finish my degree, and I knew John and I had met.
You got to tell them how we met. It's so stupid.
So there was like a group, it's called Lifted Trucks Minnesota. It was like this Facebook page, right? And it's for dudes like with jacked up trucks or lifted trucks. And I was like,
Rednecks Anonymous.
oh my God, dude.
It's so lame, man.
It was like their first ever meeting. And I was like, oh, whatever. I got nothing going on. Like, I'll go see if there's anybody there, see what it's like. And I showed up and I'm like, nope, this is about what I expected. But John
I was driving by and I saw these trucks. And I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Let me pull up in there and see what's going on.
So you weren't part of the group.
I was not part of it.
We want to be clear.
I want to be clear that Austin was part of it. I was not.
For one time. One time.
Yeah, so I pulled in. That's when I saw.
He saw my plates, my Afghan vet plates, and then I saw his, and we just started chatting, and I'm like, oh, what's up, man? Like, just connecting as veterans, right? And were you working for SPD at the time?
Yes, I was.
Okay, yeah, because then we got to talking about that, and then I was working security at a hospital, and of course, like the SPD dudes would always be bringing somebody over, and they're like, dude, you got to apply, just apply. So I did, and I ended up getting hired with Superior. Started working there. I was there for 3 years, and then I went to the county. So it just followed John. John was at the PD. I went to the PD. John went to the county. I went to the county. John moved to Idaho. I moved to Idaho.
So were you guys homies during that time then? Or you okay, cool.
Yeah, they're pretty tight.
Yeah. So I go to the county, and then John leaves. I'm like, okay, well, the county, like John had said, it was a good agency to work for. Like, they left you alone as long as you were doing the right thing. Like, it was a good place to work. And so was Superior. I would say Superior wasn't really a bad agency. They had their city issues, as most do, like, nepotism and some stuff like that. But it wasn't for the most part, we worked with a lot of good people. Mm-hmm. But then, so I go to the county, start doing that. After my first year at the county, I applied for a narcotics investigator spot, and I ended up getting that. And I did that for a year. So total, I did about 5 years. And, but John had moved out, and this is kind of where we get to we're in Montana.
Yeah.
We're hunting. It's me, John, and our buddy J-Mac, who still works for Douglas back home. And John tells us what's going on. And like he said, he kind of planted that seed in my head. And not to the point that I was really unhappy with the job itself. I didn't mind the job, but I was getting to that point where I was like, is this where I'm going to be for the next 25, 30 years? Because I got hired late. I was 28 when I got hired. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but it was comfortable, like this is easy, for the most part. I wasn't bad at my job, worked with good people, but it was the mental toll. And I think, and we realize it now, but like my wife's anxiety has gone almost completely away since leaving the profession. Like it's noticeable. Yeah. And,
so something I say very often is you don't understand the amount of baggage that you are constantly carrying around as a police officer. You don't feel it until you walk away.
Yeah.
And then when you set those bags down, and it's like, it's almost like, it's a metaphor, but you drop that body armor and you set that body armor down and you walk away from it. It's like, that shit was like holding me down. Right. And I had a lot of people tell me within the a year or two from leaving the profession, they're like, dude, I feel like you're getting younger.
Yeah.
Cause it's a high stress job.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, because when you are just, hey, I got to be at work at 5 a.m. and this is what I do, you don't have the time to really feel those emotions or understand them because you're in the middle of the storm and you're doing what you have to do.
Right.
Yep.
When you walk away, every cop I've ever talked to that walked away, you talk to them 6 months later, they're like, bro, I'm like, dude, I get it. And now hearing you guys say it, even your wife feels it,
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we were back in Wisconsin still, and I'm doing the job, and John had brought this up to J-Mac and I that he's leaving and that they want to start a pro shop. Well, I was working at a pro shop in Superior, just like part-time, like volunteering. I didn't get paid or anything, but I would work on the weekends, help out at shows, and just like learn. I loved archery, so I wanted to learn as much as I could, and that was a good place to do it. And so I said, hey man, if you ever like have any questions about pro shop stuff or archery, like the whole world, like the world ins and outs of a pro shop, let me know. I'll give you an answer. If I can't find it, I'll talk to the owner and just relay that. And so about that time, we were looking for property to build a house. So we ended up selling our house, and we were living in a camper for like the whole summer. And this whole thing came up, and I'm like, there's never a good time to do anything. There's never a good time to get married and have kids, like all that stuff. Like it's always at the wrong time, but you just do it. And I was talking to my wife, and I kind of brought the idea up. I was like, this kind of feels like the right time. Like, I was like, maybe we should do this. And it was just on a whim. Like I think we made the decision in, it was like June, and we were out here in October, I think, when we finally moved out here. Mm-hmm. And John was our realtor. But yeah, so I was kind of a forethought to this whole North Idaho Archery thing. I was just kind of a voice helping out with some stuff. And I had asked Jake and John, I was like, I know like this is kind of your guys' idea, but I would love to be a part of it. If you'll have me, like, I would love to help grow this. And they talked about it, and we're like, absolutely, dude. Like, we'd love to have you on board, because we all aligned in the same, realm. So we moved out, and I never looked back. And I say it to this day. We've been out west now for almost 2 years, and I have no regrets. This has been one of the most amazing things that's ever happened, and one of the most challenging. Like, yeah, it was just the unknown, stepping into the unknown. I had applied for the Spokane County Sheriff's Office and another couple agencies, and I didn't end up getting the job with Spokane County. And like, it's the universe. Like, this is a sign. Yeah. Like, you're not supposed to do that anymore. Like, you're done with that part. And as much it was kind of like a kick in the pants, I was like, that's kind of weird. But like, I was moving across the country. I'm like, I have to do something that I can sustain my family still.
Yeah, because the shop wasn't up and running yet.
Right.
Yeah. And we lost hope. Yeah, we lost hope. Austin was the missing link. Because Jake and I tried to build a shop. We had an investor all lined up, and the county pretty much shut us down and said, no, this is not going to work out. And it was just a lot of money. And we didn't know what a lot of money was going to be like, right? Like, when we finally found that lease, and they're like $3,400 a month, I'm like, oh my God, bro. that is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we can even, you think we can do it? But Austin, like I said, he was the missing link. When he moved out here, we lost faith and like, I don't think it's going to happen. And Austin he just lit a fire under us. He's like, I moved my entire family out here.
Don't tell me it's not.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Like, you're right. Let's fucking do it. So we ended up finding this shop, and I hit up Austin, like, bro, let's go look at this place right now. And so he linked up with me, and we looked in it, and it's like, I think this is it. I think this is the site, man. Let's do it. And so we did a letter of intent, and like a week later, we were in the building.
It all happened so fast.
It happened so fast.
So
I was like
fast.
throwing up. I'm like, oh my God.
Is that still the location you guys are in?
Yeah.
And where's that at exactly?
It's so 3848 North Schreiber Way in Coeur d'Alene.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been a roller coaster. We're coming up on our first full year. So that'll be next month, May 6th. Yeah. And this first year's been amazing. It just like grinding it sucks, but like we far exceeded our own expectations, which has been really good.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Because I mean, statistically, your first couple of years in business, or I mean, most new businesses don't see their 5-year anniversary, let alone their first or their second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
What was the pro shop in Wisconsin that you were working with?
Custom Archery.
Okay.
In Superior, Wisconsin.
Got it. Have you ever heard of Jeff's Performance Archery?
Oh, where is that?
It's somewhere right by Vortex Optics.
Oh, so it'd be down by
Sparta, right?
Sparta area.
Okay.
Yeah, that was quite a bit further south.
Got it. Because that's where my bow's from. I
sweet.
was in Wisconsin, and a friend knew Jeff, the owner of that shop. And I went out there, and he had a new Hoyt or it's actually like a 1-year-old used, but for me, that was new.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah.
he got me all set up, and that's been my bow
Dude,
ever
I love
since.
it, man. Yeah.
Which I want to jump into bow hunting too at some point.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I want to first really hammer down on the road to entrepreneurship because it can be teaching jiu-jitsu or it can be selling bows and teaching archery. But a lot of the lessons, regardless of what path you're walking, are applicable across all different different professions. You know, one thing that you said earlier that said not to like talk shit on the big box stores or whatever, but I bought a bow from Cabela's, and it's like, again, this isn't a dig at Cabela's. They have to wear 200 different hats there, right?
Yeah.
And so I went and bought a bow, and they just, you shoot a target at 20 yards a couple times or whatever, and that's about it. I was like, okay, I guess this is what getting outfitted with a bow is like. And then when I was at Jeff's Performance Archery, it's like, no, like shooting paper, tuning your bow, making sure your draw length is exact to the length of your arms. And I realized with Jeff, I'm like, oh, there's a science to this. Yeah. And it takes a substantial amount of skill to be able to set up a bow how it's supposed to be set up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We see that quite often where we'll get a bow, we'll get a new customer, and it's still amazing to us, and in a good way, that like there's still people in our little area that don't know about us and that come in for the first time, and we just get to share that experience with them. But they'll bring in a bow that they had worked on somewhere else, and you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, we got some work to do, but that's good. We're gonna get you set up the right way. And if there's one thing we say this all the time that we could tell our customers, it's that like we're not there to just herd you in and out and get a sale out of you. That's not why we did this. We did this because we worked in the customer service industry as cops, right? You can call it that. And we're here, like we're all passionate about hunting and archery. And I want you to come into our shop, even if you don't know a lick about archery, and walk out of there. If you buy a new bow from us, you're going to walk out of there with confidence in your equipment. I want you to walk out being like, yeah, I'm going to go, this is it. I'm going to get something this year, or just be confident in our work. And if it takes us, an hour and people are waiting, we want people to know that like when it's your turn with us, you're going to get all of our attention. We're not just going to blow you off, be like, oh, yep, no, you just want that one, get this one. No, that one sucks, get this, or whatever.
Well, bro, that used to be the bread and butter of small businesses is relationships, and now that most people purchase their whatever it is through Amazon or Walmart or Target, it's like, it used to be you go to the local hardware store and there's some old timer that like, hey, you know what, you're doing a gardening job, like this is, and they have someone that actually understands the process and can kind of walk you through it.
Yeah.
And that's been lost in a lot of places. And it sounds like you guys were cognizant of that. And that was kind of the mission.
Absolutely.
And something that you wanted to bring back to the customers.
Yeah, customer service is our like number one. Like it's all about them.
Yeah. What do they say? Relationships over transactions.
Yeah.
Essentially,
100%.
you know, yeah. Cause you can walk into some pro shops, and we've had people come from across the country that are just passing through, and they're like, hey, we always stop at pro shops, and you guys have a different energy here. Like this is very welcoming. Cause you'll walk into, I know I'm a victim of it. I go to pro shop back in Minnesota, and I'm like, I feel unwelcomed. Like,
Yes.
oh man, dude, like nobody's talking to
Dude,
me.
that is such, I mean, that for people listening that want to become entrepreneurs, that right there is probably one of the biggest nuggets to take away from the show. Cause I hear that all the time. People walk in, you see the little front desk area.
Yeah.
When the gym is open, we, like in the evenings, my wife stands at the desk, and and when people walk in, she introduces herself and makes them feel welcome.
Yeah.
Hey, what questions do you have? If they want specific questions from me, I'll take a break from teaching and like come and make people feel like their time is valued.
Absolutely.
And really, it only takes a minute or two for me to come shake a hand, introduce myself, and I'll just be straight up like, hey, I'm in the middle of coaching right now, but I just wanted to thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. Just a little bit of like, hey, value this person's time.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it sounds like similarly to archery, one thing I hear in jiu-jitsu all the time, like, man, I went and checked out a couple other academies, and I stood there for half an hour. No one even looked at me. And it's like, dude, we're trying to build a family here.
Yeah.
Just like you guys are doing. Right. And I say it all the time. Jiu-jitsu is the catalyst in which this family is being built, but it can be archery.
Absolutely.
It can be CrossFit. It can be whatever you're passionate about. But if people are giving you their time, fucking make it worth their time. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And like, when people say those things to me, I never take it as an opportunity to tear the other academies down, you know, cause hey, they're doing them and I'm doing me. This is how I do business.
Exactly.
But I've had a lot of people come in and be like, I don't even need to do the trial run. I want to sign up because I feel the energy here. And the energy's real, man.
Yep.
And it sounds like you're having customers express that same thing to you. And that's not by accident.
No, it's
know?
been incredible.
Yeah, that's our whole thing is giving people that experience. You know, you want to, and for us, you know, you want to come in and just, you don't want to buy a thing, but you just want to talk hunting stories and drink coffee. We're about it. Like come in and just hang out. If you're a veteran or a law enforcement guy or any first responder and you just want to come connect with people, that's what we do.
Have you guys nurtured that side of the pro shop at all? Like a table or a fire pit or like a coffee pot or something?
We're trying. So we're kind of limited with our space, but in our range, there's a little loft and we have like, we put a couple couches up there and there's like a TV and a little coffee table and stuff like that. So you could hang out, but it's so like out of the way.
Everybody hangs out.
Yeah. Everyone just hangs out right at the front with us.
We're
working on
those,
stuff. Yeah.
Because it was like I was telling you guys before we started recording, when I put a sauna in the gym, it changed the culture because that sauna, inevitably you're going to be sitting next to another person and they're packed in like sardines every night. And that's where people get to know each other and communicate and share ideas and stuff. And it's like, yeah, what was that old Field of Dreams or whatever? If you build it, they will come.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And that's the truth. People are seeking connection.
Right.
And if you can ever expand or put a little spot of your pro shop where it's literally like, hey, and maybe post something on your social media. Hey, Fridays at 6 or whatever, we fucking all sit around and whatever.
So so that's one of our goals. So we're already seeing it. We discussed it before we press record, but that tribe you're bringing, right?
Yeah.
We have guys coming in that they're just that like archery is their thing now, right? And they're finding that we're their tribe. You know, they're coming in, hanging out, shoot, because we have a range and all that. It's 24 hours to shoot, but they'll come in. They're like, they would just want to continue to be part of the family. Yeah. So like we want to have probably this summer, maybe like once every month there. We'll see what happens, but just have like, hey, show up to the shop, bring your pack, and we're going to load it up and we're going to hike up to the top of Canfield Mountain and then come back and just hang out. Right.
Bro, I'm telling you, that's where the magic happens. Yeah. Just like this weekend, my coach is coming up. We're having a couple food trucks come out and we're just sure that's going to be a jiu-jitsu seminar, but more importantly, it's like a community building exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's lost on a lot of people.
Yeah. We've done really good. I think we've done as far as putting on events and being involved in the community, as you should, right? And we're a veteran organization, you know, we're former cops, and we want people to see like we're doing great things for the community. We're not just popping up shop and, hey, come buy stuff from us. Like we're actually putting ourselves out there and putting out events and bringing some recognition to other nonprofits in the area. So we're doing a ruck march May 19th, and it's called Honor the Fallen Ruck March. So it's going to be on a Sunday, the week before Memorial Weekend and the end of National Police Week, and it's going to be a food drive. So no registrations, just show up with non-perishable foods in your packs, and it's for a nonprofit called New Beginnings. So Teresa started this nonprofit for her son who was killed in Iraq, Nick Newby. So essentially, it's for Gold Star families, veterans, any veteran. You don't have to, you just got to show your DD-214 or some sort of ID. You can come in there and get anything for free. It's all household goods.
No stolen valor, guys.
Right. No, exactly. No stolen valor.
Free food.
Yeah. So food is huge for them. They go through a lot of food each day. So we're like, let's just do a food drive. So one of my good friends that I partner with on the lending side and the real estate, Jacqueline Scotch, her and I were talking about this. And then she's like, cause I'm like, I want to do a ruck march. And she's like, let's make it a food drive for New Beginnings. So that's a cool event that we're putting on.
So do they have to ruck first with the food in their ruck?
Yeah. So we're gonna go 6 miles.
Okay. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. We'll load it up.
You're going to donate whatever you can carry.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly.
And then we're going to dump it off in a truck, Teresa's big truck that they have.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, everyone's just going to dump their food right into the truck.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Do you guys do any events specifically targeting youth?
We've
done one so far.
Yeah, one. This first year's been really hard. It's definitely, we want to get into the youth programs in our community. It's just, we're so wrapped up with everything else right now. We can't find a time to do it, or logistically, it just doesn't work out as far as using a facility or where we would go, or just the means on our end. And if we do it, we want to do it right. So, but that's definitely in the future, like getting involved with JOAD, the junior archery stuff, and getting involved in the schools, and whether that's, us doing it officially or just being the business that helps supply the equipment for somebody that's putting on, or like a school, but yeah, the youth is huge.
Well, again, one thing I've noticed is once people can go somewhere and be part of a family activity, man, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. It just happened this weekend. A father and son came in. He's a former, what do you call the Navy? The corpsman?
He was a PA.
Yeah,
he's a corpsman.
He was a corpsman.
PA.
Yeah, now he's a PA. So he brought his son in for his son to get a bow. And he's like, hey, do you have any more of these bows too? He has a twin sister. I'm like, yeah, and we can order one, make it a little girly and all that. So we're going to order her one. And then he's like, can I shoot a bow?
Can you?
And then he
tell me.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, we can shoot it. So he bought a bow. He started shooting. We gave, and then we were just there giving that one-on-one, right? Father, son. The dad's name was John. The son was John. I'm John.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was weird. It was bizarre.
John trifecta.
Trifecta.
It was just so fun just to watch them shoot together. And now they're going to get into archery and they want to start hunting together. And it's just a beautiful thing, man. It is so fun to see these families come in that are like, hey, we want to get in archery. Because you're seeing that a lot, and especially like Idaho. A lot of people are moving there and they want to get away they want to be self-sustaining, right?
Yes.
They want to get into archery. They want to do that stuff. And
and it's so, going back to like kind of what we stand on, it's so powerful to be able to have them come in and feel welcomed, and for us to give them everything, all of our time and energy, and give them that experience, and not just come in and be like, oh, God, you've never shot a bow before. Man, now I'm going to have to really spend some time with this guy. He's not just going to come and buy one and leave. Like, where you get that, you go into some shops like that and you don't feel welcomed, or you feel like you're a nuisance, or because just because you don't know what you're talking about, or they have to explain something to you. That's why they're there. And they come there for your knowledge and your expertise. So why deny them that and make them feel inadequate about their knowledge? Like, you don't know what you don't know. And we get that all the time. People come in and be like, hey, I'm just looking for some new arrows. And we'll bring them over to our little arrow room, and I'll just explain all the different brands that we carry and what the nuances between them are. And I'm like, but ultimately it's up to you, whatever you want to shoot. And the beauty of archery is, it's so, like, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat when it comes to archery. Like, as long as you can do it consistently with like repeatability, it doesn't really matter how you do it. I mean, there are some like good ways to start with form and all this other stuff to be more proficient. But, you know, Levi Morgan had said it best on a podcast. He's like, he'll go to like a shoot and, you know, he's like the best, right? The dude's the GOAT when it comes to tournament archery, 3D stuff. And he'll be on like the practice line and he'll see some guy shooting on the line or whatever. And he's like, I don't have to worry about that guy, you know? And then he get beat by that guy. And that happened a few times. And he was just like, you know what? No, there's no way to do this like perfectly. Like if you can do it and it works for you, then do it that way. You know what I mean? Like if you people I get in my head with archery all the time. Cause it's like, oh man, am I doing it the way I'm supposed to be? And then I try to change it to do it how someone else is explaining how to do it. And it doesn't work for me. So it's just like trying all that stuff and doing it the way
dude,
you can do.
I say it all the time. Find your jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, don't try and be me on the mats. Figure out a way to be you.
Yeah.
You know, or even like shooting pistol. Are you guys familiar with the Weaver stance?
Yeah.
Shooting pistol.
Oh, yeah.
One arm bent, you know, and it's like in the tactical world, we've all moved to more of isosceles, right?
Yep.
But because Weaver could shoot so well like this, a lot of people started being like, man, there's validity to that. And you'll see a lot of people shoot like this. Come to find out, he had torn a bicep tendon and his left arm doesn't extend. So he stuck here. So he had to make this work and became a very high level competitive shooter doing something different than most people.
Yeah.
And in his case, it was out of necessity. His arm didn't work correctly. Right. No. But it goes along with what you're saying is it's like, hey, what works for you might not work for him.
Exactly.
And the results speak for themselves.
Yeah. And people get all high and mighty, especially in the archery world. And I'm sure
people are high and mighty and everything because they think like, hey, this is what works for me. So this is going to be
what works for you,
and, you know?
And we don't try to preach that at all. We people come in and ask for pointers or whatever. And I'm happy to share whatever knowledge I have.
Of course.
But I don't claim to know everything by any means.
By saying you need to find your jiu-jitsu or you need to find your archery, it doesn't just mean, hey, go out there and figure it out, right? Like I'll spend years teaching guys the fundamentals and the proper placement, the proper angles that have worked for me. And then you take in that knowledge and then you tweak it to suit you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know, I make a jiu-jitsu analogy for literally everything. So, you might think you're coming here to talk archery, but
that's all right. No, we know.
But no, and that's why I always say jiu-jitsu mirrors life, because a lot of the lessons learned on the mats apply to life. And it sounds like a lot of the lessons on the archery range also apply to life.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's just, it's a something you can use for personal development. It just happens to be slinging arrows.
Yeah. And it's so good in that sense because it's just you and the bow. You know, we call it like active meditation all the time.
Well, bro, and I was just going to bring this up. I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on this because coming from a special operations unit where like my M4 was my baby, right? And like I attributed range time to having an AR and a Glock 19. And that was like going out and running drills. But it's like, even though it's fun, man, a gun is still like, again, I didn't realize this till I switched to archery. A gun is kind of high pressure. Yeah. Because a lot can go wrong if you're not on your fucking game the whole time. And sometimes you leave the range and it's kind of like, whew, like you feel spent. And that's training. That's good, right? Yeah. As soon as I switched to archery, I'd go out on the range and I'd feel like, oh, this is actually relaxing. I feel a different energy slinging arrows than shooting bullets. And maybe it's because I did the one for so long, almost to like a monotonous level. Changing to arrows is like meditative. That's a good way to put it. Yep. I don't know if you guys saw it. I have my little archery range right out here in the field. Yeah. And a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys will go sling arrows for 20 minutes or something before class, and it just kind of puts you in that place.
Oh yeah. Because it's just, like I said, it's just you and the bow and you're in your own head. It's so methodical. Once you figure out your shot process and how you go through it, and again, it's all about consistency and repeatability. So once you get your little mantra, when you can, you come to full draw, and some guys will say things like Joel Turner has his whole shot IQ process, which is very similar. You go through, you walk through these steps to get to where you break the shot, and you're not thinking about anything else, right? Like you're just so present in that moment shooting a bow that everything else in the world is muted for that brief second.
Dude. And it touches something primal in you.
Yes. Yeah.
Because human beings have been slinging spears and arrows at animals since the dawn of mankind.
Exactly.
No, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too. Even if you never have the intentions of putting an arrow through an animal, there's still a lot to be derived from just spending some time on the range.
Yeah. Well, target archery is huge. Jake and I went down to Las Vegas and shot the Vegas shoot, and you're talking, there was 4,000 some archers from all over the world that come. It's like a World Series of archery, right? It's down in Vegas, big event center, and the pressure's on. It was like no other experience I've ever done. Because you're just shooting a bow at 20 yards, but you're shooting on a line with 300 other people, and you're just like, oh my God.
So is it like a competition? Everything's scored, and
Yep.
they're gonna determine the
so
world champion.
Yep. So
Dang.
you have like the pro series. There's different divisions. You have like the pro series, then you have like the compound open series, longbows. Like they have a class for everything down at Vegas. It's cool. They have youth stuff going on there, JOADs going on there. But then you go watch like the best in the world in the big arena, because we all, like Jake shot the bow hunter class and I shot the compound class, and we both, for our first year, we held our own, which is great. But you go watch those guys on the best of the best, and they're shooting 30 arrows at the Vegas style target, which for you guys listening, the Vegas it's 3 circle targets. In like a little triangle, and inside of that is the 10 ring and then the X ring, and the X ring is the size of a dime. And these guys and gals are 30 arrows hitting a dime for every time. It is
nuts, man.
It is wild. You like watch down there with your binoculars, you see this stuff on YouTube, and after Bodie Turner, who's a young phenomenon in the archery world, Joel Turner's son. And he posted a picture of a Vegas target, and there was one hole in the center of each target in the X ring, and that was 30 arrows. He put the same like every time at 20 yards or 18 meters.
Wow!
And the level of like dedication and mental fortitude that takes. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you're just shooting paper, but to be that consistent and do the same thing for 30 shots on a line in front of the whole world or whatever,
Dude,
there's a lot of money
the discipline
on the line too.
to be great at anything is impressive.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And of course, people find a way to hate on that.
Yeah.
The guy's become an absolute expert at his chosen profession.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? And I know it's probably going to vary drastically based on like what type of animal you're going after, or what style of hunting, but just your typical practice range. Like, what do you guys typically shoot at? Just to get reps.
Oh, I'll start at 20, but I like to shoot out to 60.
Okay.
It's just like shooting long range with a rifle, right? Everything is amplified at distance, so you see your mistakes a lot more. So I'll do a few warm up rounds at like 20, get loose and shoot, and then I like to shoot far. I like to shoot big long distances, just because it challenges you more to be better, because you just focus more on everything that you're doing. Mm-hmm. But
in the obvious, I would assume if you get good in being consistent at 60 yards and a deer's at 20,
oh yeah,
it's going to be that much easier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes those closer shots like chip shots. You're just like, oh, I got this now.
One thing that I noticed is I did a lot of training leading into the 2 hunts that I've been on so far, usually from 20 to 50. And then when I was hunting, anything at 40 or beyond, like, starts to feel like, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is in Wisconsin where I hunt, it's all tree stand. Mm-hmm. And now you have the angle change, the trajectory of the arrow is different. And I'm still not dialed in on that.
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, and by no means do I claim to be a great hunter by any means. I've killed some stuff, but I'm definitely no Remy Warren, that's for sure. But yeah, it's all different dynamics, and that just comes from doing it. There's no amount of practice that will prepare you to take an animal with a bow. And I think that's what I like about archery. And Jake, if Jake were here, he'd tell his story, and archery kind of saved his life in a way, like he brings it up that after his tour, I mean, he had a rough one and he just doesn't like guns anymore, and he likes that it's just the archery is so much, it's primal, it's quiet, it's, and that's probably the best way an animal in the wilderness could expire.
Yes.
Is a well-placed shot with an arrow, because it's all hemorrhaging. There's no shock. Half the time they have no idea what happened, and then it's just good night.
Yeah.
And whereas like rifle hunting, it's, you're killing with hydrostatic shock and in placement too, obviously, but it's a much more loud experience, violent experience. Still awesome. I mean, I love hunting with a gun. I won't say that, but there's something different about archery. And just being like Jake's a killer from a tree stand.
Just the pureness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But practicing, I always tell people, like, if getting into hunting, like, just take every opportunity that you can. Guys want to start hunting and be like, I just want to kill big bucks, and you're like, yeah, that's great. We all do. But
last season I got a nubby buck.
Hell yeah, dude.
And like some people talk shit on that again, oh, you want to kill a baby? It's like, no, I'm learning to hunt. And it was actually an interesting story. So my buddy's plot of land in Wisconsin, you have to walk like a half hour out into the woods to his tree stands, right? And he has them strategically placed. And on the first day walking in, I spooked a doe during the walk, and she jumped right in front of me, and then she stopped for it was whitetail, right? They're pretty skittish.
Yeah.
For only like a second or two. But I was like, if I had an arrow knocked and my release attached, I could have got her.
Yeah.
Right. And so I go back to camp, and the guys I hunt with, Steve and Chad, that have really like shown me the ropes on archery hunting. They're like, taking an animal from the ground, especially whitetail around here, is almost impossible. Mm-hmm. I said, well, I'm still going to walk to and from the tree stand from now on with an arrow knocked and my release attached, because I feel I missed an opportunity.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the next day I'm walking out, and I was like, well, let's knock an arrow and attach my release. And I'm walking back to the cabin, and I spooked 2 deer. Same thing, jumped in front of me, paused. And in a matter of a second or two, it was like a ready up,
Yeah,
it's like, and I got him.
Oh, nice.
And I carried it down, and it was a nubby buck. So it was probably 100-pound animal.
Yeah.
Right. And I carried it down on my shoulders, like Cam Hanes style.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And Steve goes, man, like, I've been bow hunting for 30 years, and I never walked to and from the stands with an arrow knock. And you just proved that it works.
Yeah.
And he goes, and now, that's the beauty of archery. It's always evolving. You're always learning lessons. He goes, 30 years of doing this. He goes, I've taken probably over 200 animals. And now I just pulled another little piece of knowledge, because you did something that we both said we didn't think would work, and it did work.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's it's pretty fascinating.
That's
right?
the beauty of it.
And that's kind of that lesson applies to just life as a whole.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We get into this on our podcast a few times about just like the stigma, and hunters are our own worst enemy.
Bro, all 2A guys eat their own. And I'm not part of many like archery or any archery threads or groups, so I don't see this, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, you'll see like, you should have given them another year and blah, blah, blah. All the guys that take away from the experience of somebody else, and I think it's wrong, like, of course I want to shoot a giant, and I'm going to try, but I'm in it for the experience too. Like, same with John, like it's about who you're with, the memories, and you're providing, you're providing sustainable food for your family. Like, yeah, it's great to kill big things, and we all try to kill mature animals, but it doesn't work that way all the time. And like when we're hunting, like if there's a situation that gets me really excited about how it's playing out, like I'll shoot a little dink elk if it happens. But if it's a really memorable experience, that's way more valuable to me.
Yeah.
You know, like than whatever that elk had on its head or that deer had on its head. Like if it's just a cool experience or really challenging, that makes it so much better.
Yeah, Austin and I spent 15 days in the Frank Church Wilderness of Idaho last year on a sheep hunt, and it sucked. Everything about it sucked.
Yeah.
And I loved it. You know what's bizarre?
Yeah.
Is the Frank Church looks very similar to the Kunar province. It's wild. Yeah. But
so super steep, but beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
And I tell people all the time, because I was in Barry Cout. I don't know if you ever worked your way up there, up the Kunar, way north up the Kunar River. And I'll look at pictures of that area and that deployment to this day. It's been 20 years now. It's some of the most beautiful terrain you'll ever experience. Mm-hmm. I've always said, man, if Afghanistan could actually like get away from fucking a century of war, it would actually probably be a pretty powerful tourist destination.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if you knew you weren't going to get beheaded, it might be some good, good hiking.
Absolutely.
Well,
and there was a period of time, I think it was in the 70s, where Afghanistan was pretty stable, and it was a fairly permissive environment, and people were starting to do that.
Yeah. Well, they have. I mean, I remember flying around and seeing all the old castles from Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
When he went through there was one down in Farah that was built on the side of this like ridiculous, like I wouldn't even call it a mountain. It was just like a giant rock formation that went up way high, like 500, 600 feet in the air, but it was built into the side of it, and you're just like, man, that's wild.
Bro, I just watched, I think it was Netflix. It might have been Hulu, but it was a series on Alexander the Great. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you want to talk about everybody saying, no, you can't do that. That won't work. Don't do that. And he's just like, no, I'm going to do this.
No, I think I will.
Yeah. and I'm taking over.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just one young man's idea of conquering.
Yeah.
And he went and did it. And it's fucking nuts.
It makes me that. Yeah. And that's exactly the mentality that we had too. Like, we want to do this, right? And there's some guys like, dude, that's a big, leap right there. A lot of things could go wrong, but I'm like, no, I just finished this book, and it talks about having the right people on the bus, right? You want to have those guys that are next to you, that you don't have to motivate them, right? They want to succeed with you.
Yeah. And
that I have Austin and Jake. They're the right guys on the bus. Like, we're going to succeed, and we all bring something to the table, right? Mm-hmm. That's what makes it super special. It's like, when we took this, like, we knew it was going to be a challenge, and it was going to be a grind, as every entrepreneur, it's going to be a leap of faith. You're going to have to take it. If you want to do it, you just got to take it. Like Austin said, there's never a right time to do something, right? But take it, have the right people with you, and just embrace the suck, because it's going to suck, but it's going to be so enjoyable while you're doing it, because it's your baby, right? Yeah. So we knew what we wanted to, and nothing's going to stop us, and we're just going to keep going. And it's been a ride, man. It's been so fun.
I just recently saw like a little Instagram reel that I sent to these guys, and it was Andy Frisella, and he was talking about the winner's mindset, and like how when people who have that mindset never feel like they're getting ahead or winning. Like, a very small percentage of the time you feel like you're winning, but the rest of the time you don't feel like you're winning at all. But that's that mindset. Like, we're always striving to be better and to do more. And we never feel like we're winning.
Well, and bro, something that I've experienced here is you start to set benchmarks in your head. Like, what would it take for my business to feel like I'm fucking thriving now?
Yeah.
I made it. Right. Mm-hmm. And for me, something I said is like 200 students. Like, if I hit 200 students, this place will be generating enough money. It'll become very profitable, because it took 8 years before this place was ever in the green, mm-hmm. right? Very slow process. But then you hit 200, and it's like, oh, we have a whole new set of problems that come along with being big.
Growth.
So many cars, and now the county's in our business where you're growing too big, and you got this problem, you got that problem, and now the fire marshal wants to get involved. And it's like, and I'm not even complaining about any of that stuff, because the bigger you get, the more problems come along with that too.
Yeah.
But I like what you said, because I think it's important to kind of mentally prepare for, you're never going to arrive at a point where you made it.
Yep.
That point doesn't exist. Yeah. the goalpost just keeps getting pushed back further and further. And now you might arrive at a point where it's like, hey, financially we're good. The shop is fucking doing great. We have a great reputation. We're making a lot of money, but now we got this set of problems.
Right.
And every stage of growth, regardless if it's new and you're struggling or it's way down the road where the business is thriving, problem still exists. Yeah. And that's what Andy talks about. He's like, First Form is doing great right now, but don't think that there's not a mile long list of problems and fires that I have to put out on a daily basis. Cause now he has thousands of people working for him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you have to accept that that's just part of the journey.
Like I know it's going to happen for us. Like we already are outgrowing our building.
I love that, bro.
Our first year, I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like we got to go somewhere else. And so that's going to be a whole other endeavor right there. Right. Trying to get through like where we're going to set up shop. We need something bigger. Right. Yeah. And it's coming.
And bro, that's a stress, because that same thing happened here where it's like, dude, my students are on top of each other. We need more space. So what are our options? Moving? Yeah. Well, statistically moving, there's a formula. I forget what it is, but for every linear foot your business moves, you lose a certain percentage of customers.
Oh, interesting.
Because people get used to driving by whatever that intersection is and, hey, there's the archery shop, you know? Yeah. And as soon as it's not there, it's out of sight, out of mind for some people, right? Yeah. It's probably a little different these days because everything's so connected via our phones.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
But prior to that, it's like, hey, on this intersection, I expect to see this shop and it's not there. Oh, they must have went under or whatever it is. Right.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so like on one hand, moving can be stressful because you want to minimize how far you move. Mm-hmm. Right. But then on the other hand, if your facility can't facilitate the customer's needs, a move is necessary and inevitable.
Yeah.
And so like what we chose to do is just put out, and I had the luxury of owning the lot that this is on. So we put up a second facility and we're able to keep everything in house and it worked out well. But the crazy thing is we're already approaching that same problem again.
Yeah.
That big mat room now is like people are on top of each other. And on one hand, it's like, fuck man, like what do we have to do? Like, do I just stop accepting new members?
Right.
But then like what we've been talking about the whole time, it's not about how much, don't get me wrong. Making money as an entrepreneur is cool. And that should always be part of your goals, right?
Yeah.
But what's the bigger part of the goal is providing something special for the community.
Yes.
The more people that can partake in that, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Yep. And like the business did very well last year, but we didn't see a cent of that money because it went into putting up another facility.
Right.
And that's probably always going to be the case as you grow.
Yeah.
You know? And I think, well, you see that like the businesses that don't do that, invest back into themselves, don't thrive.
Yeah.
You know? Because well, you don't know what's going on, but maybe they're just, the owner's just like, I'm just trying to make as much money as I can and not trying to grow but the businesses that you see like that, putting it back in and continuing to struggle, and like we talk about that, like the business is eating steak right now, but the owners are eating ramen.
I like that. Dude.
And it's so true, but that's the way we want it, because we're there. Yeah. We want to succeed and, be financially stable and all that, and it'll come,
yes.
Like that's going to happen. And we talk about it all the time. It's tough, but we just got to keep going. And we're going to look back in a few years and be like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like it was okay.
Or not only wasn't so bad, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Just like your sheep hunt.
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah. Can I talk about that?
It's a kick to the fucking balls.
Exactly.
And therein lies the beauty.
That's what I love about hunting more than anything. Like, getting the animal, yes, that's I love that, right? If we can take food home, that's huge. But for me, I just like being out there in nature and sucking. Like I don't want to do these little like back home in Wisconsin, just walking to my deer stand, climbing it and sitting there. I'm like, it is what it is, right? I mean, that's how you got to hunt really back there. But being out west, man, I fell in love with it, especially mule deer hunting. And just climbing and sucking and being out there.
Man, I haven't experienced that.
Oh man, it's incredible.
With a bow in my hand.
Yeah,
you have to come with us.
It's insane. So when we were out there for those 15 days, day one sucked because I'm going through my pack and I forgot my lunches. I forgot my fucking lunches. I'm like, no, because I wanted 3,000 calories. I'm like, I'm already gonna be losing weight, right? But I'm like, 3,000 calories would be good. Well, now I'm down to 2,000 calories. And then day two, my air mattress, my little sleeping pad gets a hole in it. Right. And I'm like, this is just sucking. Everything's sucking. Right. And then we ran out of water and we found water. We had to drop 1,000 feet down to get water
in a half a mile.
And then we had to come back up. And it was just wild, man. Everything about it was just fucking hard. And I loved it.
Well, bro, then, I mean, because you listen to the podcast, that's kind of like one of the overarching tenets that people really need to understand is like going out, getting outside of your comfort zone and sucking is necessary for growth.
It is.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because with bad times allows you to appreciate good times that much more.
Yep.
And it takes you out of that. I think most people live in a state of neutrality, right? They're in their air conditioned house.
Yes.
They're in their car, they're in their office, and it just becomes Groundhog's Day. And they're not feeling like those moments of just, fuck, dude, I got to climb down 1,000 feet to get a drink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone should feel things like that from time to time
Exactly.
because it grounds you in reality.
Yes.
Well, it makes you appreciate everything in your life.
100%, dude.
You know, we're out here, and it's just like when you're in the military. We were out on the top of this mountain, and of course, we had to pack in 15 days worth of food. So, but we also had 15 days worth of other stuff. So you had to be very selective.
Those Afghan rucksacks were something else.
And I did not pack enough food. And John forgot his lunches. So we found ourselves like, we're sitting there glassing all day, but we're like, okay, we've got 1 more hour till lunch. You get in that mindset where like food is like, all you think about is food.
Bro, it sounds like Ranger School.
I would tell Austin, I'm like, hey, bro, guess what? And he's like, what? I'm like, tomorrow I get a beef stick.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to ration, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I get a beef stick tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's
I
kind of
think
a big deal.
By the end of it, you were getting what, 2,000?
Yeah, about 2,000.
2,000 calories a day.
But you're burning so much because you're walking, 4 to 7 miles a day.
And bro, rucking is, there's a reason why unit selection is 30 days of rucking.
Yeah.
That separates the men from the boys.
Yeah.
And it's one of the hardest things that you can put yourself through. Like sustained movement with weight on your back.
Yes.
And it's like, you can go to every gym in America and see 10,000 different pieces of equipment. I actually got an email not too long ago, and maybe they're a listener. And if they are, I'm not talking shit, but it's like, it was along the lines of, you know how Cam Hanes always says must be nice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was kind of like that. It's like, man, and the person wasn't coming from a negative place, but it was clear that they were keeping themselves stuck because they said, man, it's really cool, like seeing you and your family's fitness journey. My family's going through hard times. We don't have money. So unfortunately, like we're not in a place like you guys are where we can prioritize our fitness. We don't have money for gym memberships or those kind of things. And it's like, man, you guys are telling yourself a lie to stay stuck somewhere because the only thing that you need to become healthy is gravity.
Yes.
And gravity is equal opportunity for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I like gym equipment and you saw all the stuff I have out there. If that's something that you can incorporate in your life, cool. But if you can't, you can still do burpees and go walking.
Absolutely.
And your body can become an absolute monster.
Yes.
Doing those two things.
A bag full of sand will break you down.
That's right.
A bag full of sand. And it's so true. I'm guilty of it too, making excuses to not do something for that reason.
Bro, I think we're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
I have people that will write me often, and it's like, I try and be real on my podcasts and on my social media, but inevitably people see it. If you're in shape and you seem like a happy person, like everything must be going well for that guy. Man, how is he so motivated? Like, I'm not a motivated person. Like, I do not want to wake up and come and work out. Like every single day, my brain's coming up with a reason to be like, and you want to know what's funny? Dude, the weakness one last night. Like I didn't get my workout in yesterday because we were at my father-in-law's 70th birthday party, and we were driving home, and I told Jenny, I said, man, I didn't get my workout in. I should swing by the gym on the way home. And I said, but I'm just exhausted today. Right. And then there was a part of me that's like, why don't you go home and just relax for one day?
Yeah.
And I did. And bro, I got home at like 5:00 and I laid down, and the next thing I know, I woke up, it was 8 p.m. and I crashed for 3 hours. And it's like, there's the dichotomy, right? Sometimes listening to your body's good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be careful because that part of my brain tells me to rest almost every single time it's time to go work out and get after it.
Yeah.
And I have to Oh, and it's crazy, bro. I mean, I've been working out hard since I was 18 and I'm 43 now. And I still have that internal battle almost on a daily basis.
Yeah. What do they say? Motivation never lasts. Dedication.
That's right. Yeah.
Dedication
And so
is
it's
what
like
keeps you there.
with our online group, we call it our non-negotiables that we set every week. And it's kind of like a 75 hard principle. And instead of doing daily tasks, what a lot of the guys have landed on, because I think it's important to make it your own, right? Yeah. What a lot of guys have landed on is weekly tasks. That allows you the autonomy to move things around a little bit, right? But we set our weekly tasks on Monday, and then next Monday we go through the checklists. What'd you hit and what'd you miss? Yeah. And I missed one of my workouts.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like, but the fact that bothers me a little bit, that's also, there's a win in there.
That's good. Yeah.
You know,
because you're not allowing it to control you. You're like, I gave in once, but I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah.
And that was the other morning. I got up, got the kids on the bus, and it was one of our days off. So usually I get the kids on the bus. It's like 8:15 or whatever, and then I was going to go to the gym and then head to the shop and get some stuff done. And I walked into my bedroom to like get my gym bag ready to go, and there was my dog laying on the bed, and I was like, man, you look pretty comfy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm just gonna lay next to you for a little bit, buddy. And I climbed down there and I set an alarm. I was like, I'm just gonna lay here for 20 minutes. And I set the 20-minute alarm. I'm like, okay, 20 minutes to get up, get to the gym, get after it. An hour goes by, and I'm like, I got up and I'm like, I don't want to go. I do not want to go. And I'm like, maybe I'll just get dressed. I'll just go to the shop. I'll just skip the workout today. And then I had to push that little inner bitch back down, and I was like, no, go. Because if I don't, I'm going to regret it the rest of the day kind of thing. You know,
you're setting the tone, man.
It's going to eat at me. So then I did, and it wasn't a great workout by any means, but I got there, I did a little run, and I did some kettlebell stuff, and but I satiated it, right? But that battle is every day.
I think as long as you're stacking more wins than losses,
yeah,
for sure,
you are. I always say that in regards to most things other than diet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you have like 3 good meals a day and then 1 terrible one, that's not a sustainable path to success, right?
Yeah.
But for most things, if you're stacking more wins than losses, the results are still going to speak for themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
But yeah, bro, it's a never ending process. And it's funny because a lot of people think like you take a guy like Jocko, who is up at 4:30 every day. And if you're a fitness person, or you have a podcast, or you promote like getting after it or becoming a better version of yourself, everyone expects you to be up at 4:30 now, right?
Yeah.
And I had a conference call with a company yesterday, actually. And it's called My Fire Pit. And it's these fire pits that are made here in the United States, and they're super cool. And I said, hey, I'm open this weekend. What time do you want to hop on a call? And he goes, how's 6 a.m. Pacific time sound? I said, that doesn't sound good at all. This is Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I'm not Jocko. Let's touch base at 9. He's like, okay. You know? But even saying that, I was like, oh man, like people think that I'm up at 6 a.m. I'm not. No.
That's so funny.
You know, but that's another thing that once you're your own boss, bro, once you become someone that gets to dictate your own schedule, that part of the journey becomes a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Because like when you're a cop or you're a soldier, hey, roll calls at this time, formations at this time, there's no issue.
Yeah.
There's no thought process. There's no wavering. There's no hitting snooze.
Yeah.
It's just, it is what it is. And I don't have the ability afforded to me to try and slack a little bit here or sleep in a little longer there.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep.
That's where I found out it's between running an archery shop. Thank God I have 2 other guys with me. I cannot imagine trying to run a shop by yourself, especially, and then trying to do real estate.
Yeah.
It's like every day is just so fucking busy for me. So I'm found out that like I have to get up. I'm not trying to be dumb, Jocko, but I have to get up at 4:30.
Damn, I feel like a bitch.
No. I'm not.
Feel that way every
I'm
day,
not
so.
at the gym. I'm not at the gym at 4:30, but I get up and I kind of have my little Zen the fuck out session before, and then get my pre-workout in.
Do you do like a morning meditation?
Yeah, I do one in the morning. Kind of, I like to read before.
Okay.
And then I do this. I call it the Zen the fuck out session every night. I started doing this when I was a cop, and it really helped out. And now it's funny, now that we're not cops, THC has become a fun thing for me before going to bed at times. And
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, it's wild because my whole Zen the fuck out session, what it is, and it's called, you can laugh at it all you want, but I think it's awesome. So I'll get the lighting, the mood right. I'll get the lighting perfect. I'll put a candle on. I'll put like my Japanese garden music on, and then I have a really hot bath. And now I'm 6'5". I don't fit very well in my bath, but I make it work, and I just Zen the fuck out. I'll just sit in there and I'll just like meditate and like breathe, right, and just kind of like be in my head, right, and just focus on the breathing. I like to do that at nighttime every day before I go to bed. And now sometimes I miss it. I'll just do a quick hot shower and all that. But it's become a big part of my life to really just keep me, I don't know if you centered, but it keeps me to chill the fuck out, right? And that's why I call it the Zen the fuck out session.
Bro, people want to, like, if you were talking about, because you look like a big, strong, athletic dude, combat veteran. If people that had walked our paths, say 20 years ago, were talking about putting on Japanese music and meditating to breath work, people be like, dude, what the fuck is what's going on with him? He's gone full hippie on us. Oh, now he's using THC too. Like, what a fucking loot. Like, I know. But bro, like, that stuff is that's non-negotiable now.
Yeah.
Frequency, vibration, energy, intention, breath work. Yep. I don't care who you are, those things will add a benefit to your life. Yeah. Like you see that instrument right there, the Shruti box. That looks like a wooden suitcase. Yeah. That plays like healing vibrations. All right. Cool. And bro, when you start playing that, I'll play it for you guys when we wrap this up. Okay. You can feel whatever the vibrations are coming out of that thing. Yeah. They have your body just knows this is right.
I love that.
This feels good.
Yeah.
You know? And I got all kinds of weird shit in here now. Like that thing's supposed to put out fucking healing frequencies. And again, like, that sounds fucking nuts, but they've done studies where they've set those up in front of cancer patients, and the frequency is able to kill skin cancer. Wow. And like all kinds of stuff. The drums. Yeah. I'm all in on this stuff. I love it so and bro, much. You can do, like, you talked about it a little bit in, as a cop, just getting in your own head, right? Yeah. That can be good and it can be bad. Right. Yeah. Tree stand hunting for me is a place where I get in my head. Yeah. But I'm getting in my head surrounded by nature. Right. Yeah. Yep. The sounds, the smells, the crispness of the cold air, because we're hunting in late October in Wisconsin. Yeah. And it all becomes an experience where it's almost, I guess you could say it's meditative. Yeah. Right? Absolutely. And that's actually one area in my life that, to this day, I feel like I'm lacking on. Bro, the most mentally tough people in the world are advocates of meditation. So anyone that tries to downplay that, like, come on, dude.
Right. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I love hearing that.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's something special. It really just become a big part of my life now. And like I said, to get up in the morning and to have that, and then just get to the gym and get it done with, it really just makes the day like amazing.
Are you done with screen time after you're zen the fuck out too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my screen time's done. Like, as soon as I zen the fuck out, like, phone's away, right? Bro, airplane mode gone.
I just bought an EMF reader.
Oh,
right?
Perfect. Yep.
So you can walk around your bedroom and it's like, you start to go near your modem and it's all zzz, zzz, zzz. You put it up to your phone, like everything, man. And I was just telling my wife, it's funny, we were talking about this yesterday. I said, I think we need to restructure our house where all of our modems, our cable boxes, our cell phone charging station, hardwired in, and downstairs somewhere like that's away from the family.
Yes.
The bedrooms should be somewhere where it's like absence of all that shit.
Absolutely.
You know?
Dude, it's so funny.
So real.
When just growing up, like, I used to fall asleep with the TV on all the time. It was a comfort thing for me. And then, like, when I lived by myself, like, I had a TV in my room, and like I'd put on a movie and go to bed. And when I met my wife, she didn't have any of that. Like, she didn't have a TV in her room, like anything. And I'm like, this is weird. But now, because I haven't had that for so long, like, since we've been together, we've never had like a TV in our room or anything. And I'm like, that sounds weird now. It, like, to have that in your, like, to be watching TV before you go to bed, I'm like, that doesn't sound like, I don't want to do that. I want to be in a dark room with, like, I want to go to bed.
I know you're right. I need to get my TV out of my room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're right.
But we recently, it's funny, 'cause I'm going to go back on what I just said, because we've talked about doing that, like putting one in there for like the days when we just don't want to get out of bed. Like we want to have a Zen day in the bed.
Bro, I'll tell you this, man. And this is what I love about the podcast, because you said we'll go off on some tangents. This is a fucking tangent, right? It has nothing to do. I listen to those guys because I want to hear about archery, right? But I mean, with a family and kids, you're talking about getting them up and getting them on the bus. Like we do all that stuff too. We have to drive them to school. And like from the time our eyes open until me and my wife lay down at night, it's like go, go, go.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I like the go, go, go. That's not me complaining. That's just the schedule that our lives have created. And we will lay down in bed and the kids go to bed. And like for the next hour and a half, that's our time.
Yep.
And bro, like sometimes it is nice to put on, just like I said, that Alexander documentary.
Yeah.
Where you're still learning, you're still consuming something. Like you can spend an hour of television and just rot your fucking brain, or you can also like drive some knowledge from it.
Yeah.
And we really like that time away from the kids.
Yes.
To be able to just decompress.
That's so true. Because our daughter is 9 and our son is 6. It's busy times for us. And because John always is like, are you reading? Are you reading before you go to bed? I'm like, no, dude. Like I'm hanging out. We're like watching stupid shows. Like that's what we do because by the time the kids go to bed, it's already like 8 o'clock, 8:30. And then we got to clean up the house, get all the chores done for the day. And then we finally get time to decompress a little bit and have some time either alone. Like she'll turn on a show downstairs. I'll go up into the office and, watch some hunting shows or like do some work on the computer or just like, but that's, and then we're usually not in bed until like 10:30.
Yeah.
But that's our time. Like that's our time to do what we want to do for the day, because everything else during the day is busy and you're doing it for other people or for the kids, or like you're just running around, so it's funny you say that, because that's what we do too. Like we just put on something mindless for a little bit and then go to bed. We're just like,
whenever I hear my friends talk about being busy that don't have kids, I'm like, fuck, dude, just you wait. It's like your whole life is just fucking completely different. And again, it becomes normal because that's the life you're living. But me and Jenny talk about it's like, dude, because our youngest is 9 now.
Okay.
And so it's 9, 12, and 15, and the 12 and the 15-year-old are basically adults. I know it sounds crazy to say, but they can manage themselves very well.
Yeah.
Obviously they still have a lot of growth to do, but as far as having to be so present in their life, it's kind of like, oh, they're just doing their own thing now. And you start to see the light, the freedom light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, fuck, man,
it's close.
It's approaching.
I got to say though, about where we're at right now, this is still fucking wild to me that we're here.
Yeah.
Being in that squad car, listening to your podcast and all
bro.
that, it is. And that's where I want to talk to anybody that's listening, that's thinking about making that leap. Is like, the universe is real. I truly believe in the universe, like that everything works out. If you put forth the effort to get there, right? You manifest it. And, I remember talking to Michelle, I'm like, dude, this Greg guy is so fucking cool. Dude, like, look what he's doing, right? Like, I think I can I can do something, right? And that's when the whole real estate and then the NIA thing, like, we can do this. And then when we saw, the grand opening, I'm like, dude, we got to go out there and meet those fucking guys. And then I see you and I'm like, oh my God, we got to go fan. I don't want to be a fanboy, Greg, but whatever I said, but I'm like, dude, how fucking wild. Like here we are, we meet you guys. We meet the Black Rifle guys. We meet Josh from Montana Knife Company, and now here we are with you on this fucking podcast. Well, bro, it's crazy.
The weird thing about like, as soon as someone has like an online personality, right? People start to almost attribute like a celebrity to it, right? And I've had people ask me like, dude, what's it like being famous? I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like Brad Pitt's famous, right? I run a jiu-jitsu academy. But still, like the weird thing about it is like, prior to my video, I followed and listened to Mike Glover, Andy Stumpf.
Yeah.
I was intrigued by what those guys were doing and like some of Tim Kennedy's stuff and the Black Rifle guys. And now I text with those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, as soon as you meet them, it's just like when we met, you realize like, oh, this is just a guy that created a podcast, but he's just a guy.
Yeah.
There's nothing different than any of the other homies that I'm friends with, you know? And so, yeah, at that grand opening, I met a lot of people, and you realize it's like, dude, just because someone created a podcast or their social media happened to blow up or whatever, it's like, that just happens sometimes to some people. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah. I shouldn't say that. To some people, it does probably change them, you know?
Sure.
But guys that come from our background and have walked the paths that we've walked, it's like, bro, you've done months of combat in Afghanistan. It's not super impressive that you built a studio in your jiu-jitsu academy. It's just something I do, you know? But the reason that I did this was because Andy Stumpf, you know, he got me on board. He had me on his show, and I kind of saw like a front row seat to podcasting.
Yeah.
And then I got a lot of emails that are like, dude, I really appreciated that show. And when you said this, it made me think about that. And like all those little emails, it's like, oh, you can actually affect change. You can affect positive change in people by sitting down and sharing your thoughts. Because dude, a thought is the first step to affecting change.
Yeah.
It's first a thought or an idea, and then it has to have action that follows it. And then you actually get a result. And so you can share thoughts via these microphones, which seems weird. It still seems strange to me that we sit down here for an hour and 45 minutes and someone somewhere is going to push play on their phone and they're going to hear you say, man, you know what? Like, I realized law enforcement wasn't for me, and I decided this is the next step. Yeah. And that's going to be the little piece of motivation that they need to say, I can do that too, just like you fucking did.
Yeah.
And bro, there's another Andy Frisellaism is there's no shortage of room at the top. Mm-hmm. Like instead of crabs in a bucket mentality, like let's try and lift everybody up. And watch everybody become self-sufficient. Watch everybody become financially independent.
Yes.
Watch everybody live a life that is doing something that they're passionate about. And like, there's always going to be fucking haters.
Yeah.
I get emails that people talk about what a piece of shit I am. And it's like, because you got to go fund me. That's the only reason all your shit worked out for you. But for the rest of us, and it's like, okay, yes, there's always going to be those people.
Yeah.
But as the saying goes, you try and appease everybody, you appease nobody. So instead of worrying about that, I've tried to make the mission of this show be something that is going to help people strive for personal excellence. I say all the time, I hate that Andy Frisella coined that term because I wish I had coined that term. Because personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion, right?
Yeah.
You want to grow into a fucking awesome, powerful, independent, defiant human being, you have to make sure you're good first. And it comes with growing your mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
And it's hard for a lot of people to do that feel like they're in that hamster wheel of life, you know? Yeah. And that's why when you guys told me your story, even fucking way back when we first met at the grand opening, I was like, 2 more guys that stepped out of the path onto a new path and they feel like rejuvenated as human beings. Yes. That story needs to be told.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's funny because I've followed John throughout some stages in my life. Like, I got hired at the same police department because John was working there. And then I went to the sheriff's office because John was there. And then I moved to Idaho because John was there. And I'm like, dang, I kind of am following this guy. But I'm like, it's working out pretty well for me. So I think I might keep doing it.
Well, bro, here's the thing too. Like, you actually mentioned it a couple of times. I didn't have any good mentors in the military, right? Having other men that can mentor or guide you or help you or facilitate you, bro, if you don't think that that's necessary, good luck ever finding success, dude. Yeah. Like having the right, you mentioned it too, like who's on your bus, right? Yeah. Having the right people to your left and right is everything.
Yeah.
And if you find someone that you feel is an asset to your life and an asset to your mission, why wouldn't you want to attach yourself to that person?
Right. Yeah.
We are tribal by nature. I say it on the podcast all the time, like, connection with humans is really what we seek in our core, like on a foundational level of what the human experience is. It's about sharing it with people to your left and your right.
Yeah.
And, I think that it's by design that they try and keep everybody in like a low vibration state, missing out on those meaningful connections. And if you can step outside of that, just like you guys said, the business is eating steak, but we're eating ramen. Yeah. Like, you haven't fucking made it yet. But the joy isn't in the end goal. The joy is walking that path towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're feeling that now.
We
know?
try to remind ourselves that a lot of time. Like, we have all these goals and we want to be here and we wish we were there already, but we got to enjoy the ride because it only happens once. Like the journey, this path is a one way going to the top, and we just got to enjoy the grind of it. And so we have to humble ourselves and bring ourselves back to reality every once in a while. We're like, you know what? We're going to get there, and that'll be great when we do get to that point, but we got to focus on the now and continue moving forward in that.
Yeah.
And when we first opened and we saw that the Black Rifle grand opening was going on in Kalispell, we were like, we got to go. This is cool. Like, another company that I've always, I've been a subscription member for them for a long time and like always followed along, and I was like, now I'm here. I'm like, that's a skip away. And we're like, we got to go. Right. So we go with the families, and then turns out like we went the first weekend.
That's right. You went the wrong weekend.
Yeah.
Because Glover was doing like a
fieldcraft
event or something. That's right.
Because it was supposed to be that weekend, but apparently Evan had booked it that weekend and didn't realize that he was going to be at some NASCAR race with Black Rifle. So then they had to push it back a week. But regardless, we're like, well, we're going. Like, this will be cool. So we got
you guys met Glover that week before, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we got to chat.
Fucking dude.
Great guy, man.
Got to chat with him for a while, and then we left, came back home, and knew that the grand opening was going to be the next weekend. And I'm like, I looked at John. I was like, we got to go back. We have to go back. I said, like,
what is that? 4 hours or something for you guys?
Oh, God, 3.
3?
Maybe?
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, it's not that far. We'll go there. We'll just do a turn and burn trip, hang out there for the day. Like, this is a great opportunity for us to network and meet some awesome people.
Bro, I love that you said that, because don't miss opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last couple of years, especially in the podcast industry. Like Chad Robichaud, are you guys familiar with him?
The name, yeah.
He wrote the book Saving Aziz. Him and Tim Kennedy did the Save Our Allies and extracted all those people from Afghanistan.
Yep.
I'm actually halfway through his book right now, but he said, it was last weekend, he texted me, he's like, hey, I'd love to have you on my show. Let me know like when we can make that happen. I booked tickets and flew out there and did it. Like, sometimes putting yourself out there will open up another little opportunity here or there. And bro, I'm already feeling it from that trip. He shared some things about how he runs his business. We talked about authoring books, because that's his 3rd book comes out pretty soon. And now I got someone, he's like, hey, you need any help in the future? Like, let me know. I'd love to help you, move into publishing, or I got all the connections. And it's like, if you don't put yourself out there, it's never going to happen.
Yeah,
yes.
But if you put yourself out there, it might happen.
Right.
And bro, it's the same thing with the path to entrepreneurship. Nobody is going to look back when they're 70 and be like, hey, remember when we started that new adventure and we opened those new businesses and we put everything we had into the archery shop, and those few years or whatever it ends up being, it's like, hey, maybe this will be a 5-year project. Maybe you guys will be doing this when you're 80. Right. But if you don't try, you'll never know.
Yep.
You're not going to be 80 saying, fuck, man, I just wore body armor my whole life and I never pulled the trigger on this, or I never pulled the trigger on that. And one thing that's interesting to me is like the people that want to pull the trigger but are always reluctant to, I promise you, the need for cops is never going away. Yeah. The need for delivery drivers is never going away. Like, you can always integrate yourself back into the workforce.
Yeah.
If you end up finding out that your passion project, for whatever reason, isn't for you, but you never know it until you tried it.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Well said.
It's fucking important.
Yeah, it is.
And dude, like, I say it all the time on the show. My grandfather, who was a good man, I always looked up to, I have nothing but respect for him, but he worked in a sawmill and he cut shingles for houses for 65 years. And then he retired and he died. And it's like, man, like, that can't be what this is about.
Yeah.
It can't be.
Right.
Look at we were just talking about this in the shop the other day, the life expectancy of a first responder police officer that after they retire is 5 years.
5 years or less.
Yep.
And bro, and that is because I don't care how you approach the job or what you think of the job. At the end of the day, shift work, staying up all night, dealing with high stress constantly, cortisol running through your veins 24/7. The profession of law enforcement leads to a heart attack.
Yeah.
And that's statistically proven, you know?
I recently, I'm 33. And I could feel like after getting out, I felt a lot better. Right. But like, I still didn't feel there yet. And so then our friend Seth, had recently got on to TRT, and I was talking to him about it, and I'm like, what, you know, like, and Seth is, I think
42, 43.
40, yeah. So he's a decade older than I am, but like, seeing him, and he's like, dude, just go get your levels checked. Like, just at least see what you're at, you know? And I was like, oh, okay. And being, 31 or 32, I was like, I don't think I'm probably all right. But I went and got checked, and my T levels were like 400 or 500, and they should be up in the like 8 9s, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. And I'm talking to the doctor, and she's like, well, what have you done, like during your life? I'm like, well, Army, combat, policing for the last 5 years. And she's like, yeah, having cortisol levels spiked like that for long periods of time will deflate your body's production of natural testosterone.
Bro, and I think it's more than that too. I think it's in the foods we eat.
Oh yeah.
I think it's in the water we drink. I think it's in the microplastics, like
all that.
Everything in society is waging war on our bodies and our hormones now.
Yes.
And it's important to be cognizant of that.
Absolutely.
And I tell people all the time, because like some people think like, oh, you're on TRT. Yeah, you're just on steroids. Yeah, okay. Technically you're correct.
Yeah.
But I feel better on it.
Yeah.
I have a better sex life. I feel more passion. I feel stronger. My emotions feel, and bro, like your emotions feel stronger both ways too. Like sometimes like fuck, I feel sad as fuck right now.
Yeah.
This isn't, why am I crying? Because we're watching a television show.
Oh my God. That's
and it's
so
like,
true.
but you know what, dude?
Yeah.
That's okay, man. Like you're feeling again, as opposed to just being fucking numb to the world.
Yeah.
I've been on since September last year, and I can't say enough. Like I feel like I can recover better. I feel like my workouts are better. My mood, like the headaches, I used to get like bad migraines and like cluster headaches. Don't feel that anymore. It's just been, it's been great. And like, I know that now that I'm there, it's for the rest of my life, but that's an investment into my own body, into myself for the rest of my life.
Well, and there's naysayers to TRT too.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, like, I'm not saying that there's not some validity to that.
Sure.
Like, everything in life is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So if I'm putting the fountain of youth into me all the time, is it going to catch up with me at some other point? Maybe. But also, like, I would rather feel like a high performer, that my body is optimally working in my 40s.
Yeah.
And if that costs me some time when I'm in my 80s, like, hey, so fucking be it.
Well, look at Sylvester.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
like hold Sylvester Stallone.
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, come on, man. The guy's a stud. He's like 80 something.
Well, and like for me recently, I've switched over from like more like bodybuilding, lifting, kind of like the bro lifts, to more functional stuff. So like now I'm running more, I'm doing more kettlebell stuff, more mobility, and I feel so much better. And I feel like I'm actually getting stronger doing that than when I was just going in and doing like the routine, bench and deadlifts and squats and all the the bodybuilding, lifting kind of stuff.
Bro, that's one of the beautiful things of being an athlete your whole life, is going through phases.
Mm-hmm.
Always learning something new and changing things, because as you age, it changes, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys saw, I posted a video last week. I said, because I haven't ran in a couple of years, because my left knee is like, the cartilage is going out. Mm-hmm. And I got stem cells in it, and I felt great since then. So I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to start running again. So I went and did a 3-mile run. My wife's like, why would you start with 3 miles? I'm like, 3 miles is nothing.
Yeah.
Right. But 3 miles is actually something when you haven't ran in a couple of years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And bro, my fucking knee hurt so bad for the next week that I realized, like, oh man, I'm not David Goggins.
Yeah.
I have to accept
Yeah.
that running is just not part of my workout routine moving forward.
Yeah.
But I can ruck. It's impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it impacts, it starts to fuck my knee up pretty fast. But I can ruck, and I can do jiu-jitsu, and I can do yoga, and I can do the rowing machines and the erg. Like nothing else bothers it. So that's a win, right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be
yeah.
upset by that.
Right.
Hey, ruck.
But I'm just saying, as you progress, like I'm starting to incorporate a lot more yoga. And
Yeah.
bro, like again, 24-year-old Army Ranger Greg, that's gay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing yoga.
Yeah.
The only reason I go to yoga is to look at hot chicks.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I do yoga alone and just put myself through a routine that I've created by myself.
Yeah.
But bro, at this point of my life, I have to do a certain amount of activity that is promoting longevity and range of motion and flexibility and those type of things. And the stuff they're doing over in CrossFit, it does the opposite to me. You know, if I try and do as many deadlifts as I can for time, it's
God.
and bro, don't get me wrong. There is a place for CrossFit. You watch the CrossFit games, those guys are as good of athletes as human beings can be. Right. But I've also found pairing CrossFit with jiu-jitsu, it's too much being hammered on
Yeah.
and not enough of recovery.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas yoga is the opposite. It's not hammering your body. It's literally every second you spend doing yoga is building your body back to be stronger
Yeah.
and have a higher rate of functionality.
Yes.
You know? And you have to change and adapt as you get older.
Right.
And it's like I say it often, there's going to be a time when I walk away from jiu-jitsu and people think that's blasphemy to say. But it's like, dude, if my fucking neck is starting to hurt all the time and my shoulders are aching and shit, at some point, everything is finite and it's going to be time to move on.
Yeah.
And it's like, it sounds like you're finding that with like squats, bench, and deadlift. Like,
Yeah. I want to be 60 years old running around the mountains with my grandkids, chasing elk and stuff. Like that's my goal now. Like, yeah, I want to look good. Like we all want to look good, but I want to be able to do that. I want that to be a part of my life then, because that's important to me. You know, those
for
memories.
sure, man.
So
fuck, we're already at 2 hours.
yeah.
That went really quick.
Yeah.
I did.
And normally I keep the show about 2 hours, but I want to go a little long because we've touched on it here and there. But I think something that I would like you guys to kind of dive in for maybe 20 minutes or so was like with the Cam Hanes and the Joe Rogans and the Jockos and all of the guys that are, for lack of a better term, influencers over men that are kind of cut from our cloth. Everybody's seeing archery now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And they're seeing the value in it. They're seeing the becoming self-sustainable, just learning a new skill set. Like a lot of the things that we talked about. And some of the archery community hates it. Like, God damn it, Cam Hanes is ruining our secret, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure you guys are of the opposite mindset,
Yeah.
owning an archery shop.
Yeah.
What would you say to listeners that have always considered it or had it in the back of their mind or something that they've wanted to try? Like, what is the initial steps into the journey of archery? And what would you recommend to people that are having that voice in the back of their head saying, I think I could do this?
Well, man, I think hopefully you've got a really good pro shop near you that's welcoming. Like we talked about earlier, that's so important because it is a daunting thing to want to step into, you know, archery. And we hear that all the time. But just kind of finding out what you want out of it, you know, is a good place to start. And man, they make bows from beginners all the way up to professionals, right? So there's a flavor for everybody. And if you're going in to get started, I would say, you know, there's a couple different options. You can go traditional. You could do like recurve or longbows, which is an awesome place to start. Or you could go into the compound realm. There's a little more to it in the compound realm as far as like what you're going to spend and like the accessories that you need and all that stuff. But just go in and shoot some bows. And for us, you know, it's finding the one that talks to you. Like find the bow that fits you. If it's one we don't sell, it's not going to hurt our feelings if you go buy it somewhere else. Like, cause at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about you and finding the equipment that works for you and that you love to shoot. Because we see it all the time. We'll, you know, like John the other day with the customers, he's like, well, let's take you on a date with all these bows, you know, we'll shoot them all, you know, and find which one that really feels good for you to shoot, because that's where you're going to have the most success, and I think guys like Cam and Rogan and all these guys, putting this message out there and getting more people involved is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because, and there's a lot of people that hate on it, and they're like, they're just bringing more people, and our hunting spots are getting crowded and blah, blah, blah. But the thing of it is hunting's getting smaller and smaller. It feels like there's more people out there, but it's getting smaller.
Well, and one thing that I see with jiu-jitsu that I'm assuming you guys probably see with archery is it's like, once you commit to a new passion, man, it forces you to kind of tighten up your shot groups and other aspects of your life.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go do like those run, lift, shoots or whatever, if you guys, Beast Mode Archery out in Wisconsin, are you familiar with those guys? Once you start to immerse yourself in a community of people that's out there doing hard stuff, it forces you like, man, I gotta stay hydrated, or I gotta eat clean foods because we got this event coming up or whatever. And it's like, it's one choice to jump into these communities of people, but a byproduct of making that choice forces you to become a better version on a lot of other aspects of your life as well.
Yeah. I think new people just getting into it, start out with what you want, have a goal in mind of what you want out of it, whether it's bringing home sustainable food for your family and being able to, or you want to get together and do it with your kids, or maybe you just want to shoot in the backyard and it's just a family experience. There's a niche for everybody in the archery world. And like I said, hopefully you have a good a good pro shop nearby. But there's a lot of good stuff on the YouTube and the internets and stuff. Like, if you're just getting into it and you're like, I don't know, I don't have a good shop and I'm just trying to learn, there's a lot of stuff on the internet, but some of the few things that we point is like Dudley's School of Knock. That's a really good one. He explains things very, very well on there. And just diving into it, just trying it.
Do you think it's important to find a pro shop that you can have an ongoing relationship with? Or, because like in my case, I traveled to Wisconsin because I had a buddy out there, and then we went to a pro shop, and I feel like I got a lot from that. So for people that might not have something local, instead of just saying like, fuck, I'll just go to Cabela's, maybe plan a weekend trip where maybe you have to drive 8 or 10 hours, but then you're going to get that initial setup done correctly.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Go to one that, has good reviews and where they put customer service first. Gosh, if we're out this way, is it G4 Archery is just south of
They're
Seattle,
in
Oregon. Yeah. That's a good place. Obviously
World.
Archery World is a good place. The Bow Rack, if you make it down there, is obviously a really good shop. But just finding one that's good, and you'll know right when you walk in. Like if you feel welcomed and the employees there, the owners or whoever seem knowledgeable and just want to share their passion with you, that's a good place.
Yeah. Because people come in and they've never hunted, right? And that's a big daunting thing. It's like, all right, I got the bow, I got all the equipment, I can shoot. Now, what if when I kill an animal, then what? Right? The hard part. Yeah. And like, it's just like, come in. Cause I know like Jake's really good at it, but we're all good at it. But it's like, dude, if you want to go out a day, let me know. We'll go out. I'll take you. If you have somewhere you want to go hunt, let's go. Right. Just to help them out, because there's so many people that want to get into hunting now, which is a beautiful thing. Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, they don't have that mentor. So they're really coming to our shop and they're finding that place, that tribe, and like we're guiding them and helping them. And it's just a really cool thing to see these guys, and they're getting healthier and they're shooting more. And it's like, man, look what we're bringing here. So, I mean, that's what I really like about a pro shop is anybody can come in, we'll share our knowledge. It's a special place. And that's what I would look for in a pro shop.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so much good stuff to consume out there as far as the archery world. Like Cam puts a bunch of good stuff out there. When you've got Rogan talking with guys like Ranella and all these guys he has on his podcast, they throw some really good nuggets. And I like the way they describe a lot of it and kind of don't make it so daunting to other people to try. They kind of normalize it in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you just got to do it. You got to take the step and go. It's like just go in and get set up and start shooting and just learn and enjoy the journey, because it's a cool journey. I mean, I love when you'd get somebody that comes in and gets set up for the first time and just started hunting. Actually, like our buddy Reno.
Oh yeah.
You know, he comes in and he just wants to get into hunting and start. And so he comes to the shop right after he was one of our first customers, you know, and we watched his journey. And like last year he killed his first buck with his bow, and it was so cool. Yeah, because you get that phone call from him and he's like, I just killed a buck. And like, I just killed a deer. And you're just like, that I love that. Yeah. I love that. I love seeing that. And then just how excited he was, you know, because it wasn't a giant, but nobody cares. All I care about is that you had an awesome experience, because those memories last forever.
Yeah.
You know, and you learn from each one of them. So that's cool to see. Oh, we love that.
Would you say the majority of hunters are people that, because like a lot of people think like, oh, these guys just want to go kill animals, right? And like they almost attach something negative to that,
yeah.
right? And when people act like that to me, I always say like, I've killed 2 deer now, and I don't know if enjoyment is the right word.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
It is.
It sure is.
But it's also, I honestly think we are supposed to feel that heaviness when we take a life to consume it. I think that's the natural process of the cycle of life. Yeah. You don't feel that heaviness when you pick up a pack of ground beef at the grocery store.
Right.
You know, and I think anyone that's okay with eating a steak and not okay with putting an arrow through a deer, like you're just not really being honest with yourself.
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And you already said it, like a wild animal that takes an arrow through the lungs and bleeds out. Like the second deer that I got, I think that thing was dead in 30 seconds, right? But it lived a life out in the woods, doing what animals do. And I'm not knocking on ranches that raise cattle and stuff, but at the end of the day, like for you to live, something has to die.
Yeah.
And I think having a front row seat to that has been something that's been good for me.
It's so special.
But I still don't know if I would articulate it as enjoyable.
Right.
And my boy Zach that goes hunting with me, like he killed a buck on our first trip out. Pure joy from him. Like he loves the hunt and the kill, you know? And that's cool too, if that's what maybe it's an age thing too. He's 20 and our life experience is a little different. And so maybe we value life or just perceive it a little differently.
Sure.
But I think that's an important thing to understand as a man, what that feeling of taking a life feels like. And then also the process from preparing that animal from it's walking in the woods and now it's on my dinner table.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cool being at home and like, we'll take out some venison steaks and cook it up, and like watching my kids eat that and like the whole family being nourished from that is so cool. Like there's something super special about that. And, I just think, and kind of what you had asked were like most hunters are like, I think most hunters are like that. I would like to assume, you know, most of the guys that we know and that we hunt with are very, very appreciative when they are able to harvest.
It's emotional, man.
It's actually, emotional. I've cried both times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I booked a trip last night. I'm going out to Maui to do an axis hunt.
Oh, nice.
With a friend out there.
Excellent.
And, on one hand, I'm excited. And then on the other hand, I know it's like, man, this is prepare to feel that again.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I mean, I love animals. I love nature, and taking a life should feel heavy.
Yep. And I think that's a rap a lot of hunters get is like, they just, you know, they're out there just killing, you know, and most,
bro, I swerve so I don't hit rabbits and squirrels.
Exactly. I'll roll my truck to miss that rabbit.
You know what I'm saying?
The majority of hunters have a deep found respect for those animals, and they don't want to see them suffer.
Yeah.
I mean, now, just like everything, you've got bad apples. You've got people that obviously give everybody a bad name, but that is not the majority. I would say most hunters that I know want to give that animal the cleanest, swiftest death out there.
Yeah,
you know, and they want to be reasonable hunters and ethical hunters, and we owe it to ourselves to do that. You know, to be ethical
for sure, man.
So.
And then the other thing that like we can't do an episode of my podcast without saying this, but it's the world's weird right now.
Oh, dude.
And I'm not, you know, and I'm actually seeing the pendulum starting to swing back the other way. I'm feeling the energy shift a little bit, maybe we're not going into the apocalypse, right? Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell.
But if you're a man with children and you don't have the ability to gut and butcher an animal, it might be time to ask yourself, why not?
Why not?
Yep.
Because it's if that day ever does happen, it's going to be too late. You know?
Oh, yep. Yeah.
I was going to talk to you guys about it off air, but I'll just throw it out here now because as my Hoyt, the compound bow, that's like, I mean, that thing's so high tech that if the apocalypse happens and my string breaks, that's a paperweight now.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas if you got a nice recurve and a handful of extra strings on the side, like that could carry you for years.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So I was like, I think I need to incorporate that.
Yeah. A little
into
trad
my
shooting.
arsenal.
That's so fun. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Trads. There's something going from compound to traditional. Like I love compound. I'll probably hunt with compound for a long time, but I'm going to jump into the traditional world and shoot a little bit more of that. Cause I think after shooting compound for so long, it's still enjoyable and still meditative to me, but it's not. Shooting a recurve can be a lot more fun because there's a lot less that goes into it as far as like technicality, and it's still very technical, but it's so much more organic, instinctual. You know, like you're not like leveling your sight, you're not lining up your peep just correctly with your peep housing. You know, like you just have
to get to know that bow.
You have to it's very intimate. Like you're shooting in different styles, trying to figure out what works best for you and how you're aiming. And like, it's harder because now you're having to figure out what your holdovers are at different ranges and whatever your aiming point might be. Like everybody's different. So there's some guys that will shoot 3 fingers under the nock and they'll aim down the arrow. And then they'll use the point of the arrow as their aim and like how far that needs to be up or below where they want to hit. It's cool. It's really cool.
All right. Well, we'll make that a deal then. Yeah. I'll drive out to Coeur d'Alene sometime this summer.
Yeah.
And get dialed in on a recurve.
Sweet, man.
Sweet.
You might even like a longbow too.
Yeah. Longbows are sick.
Yeah. Just one full stick, man.
Yeah.
There's no limbs on it. It's just
you have like a longbow. Well, they make takedown bows. So you have like a 1-piece longbow or a 1-piece recurve, which is made out of one solid piece. And then you have your takedown stuff, which you can swap limbs out. You can break it down, pack it up a little bit smaller. So those 1-piece longbows are sweet.
They're so cool.
Yeah, they're really cool.
That's what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah, you like that.
I don't want to pack it around.
Yeah.
It's just going to be put on the side until the apocalypse happens. All right. Well, cool, guys. Right. We're going to wrap this up. Go ahead, give the name of your shop again and the location. And then I will, as always, I'll put in the show notes below links. Are you guys both on have social media that you'd want to share with the show?
Yeah. So we're North Idaho Archery. We're located in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Address is 3848 North Schreiber Way. Our email is northidahoarchery208@gmail.com if you ever want to reach out to us. We have a podcast, North Idaho Archery Podcast. We also have an Instagram, North Idaho Archery on Instagram.
Yep.
Facebook, same thing.
Yeah. And if you're ever looking to move out there, your North Idaho agent here in Coeur d'Alene.
Shameless plug.
Hell yeah. No, dude, that's
man.
what it's all about.
Yeah. Give us a follow. We got a gram. We got a YouTube channel, Residing North Idaho. That's Seth. He runs that channel. But yeah, we're all former cops and military. There's a group of 4 of us, and then the wives, they pretty much do all the stuff, the paper stuff, and do all the marketing and make it look badass. So
I say the same thing about here. Good thing I can teach jiu-jitsu because Jenny does everything else.
Yeah, Jake's wife Rachel does a lot of our QuickBooks and stuff, and thank God, because if it was up to us 3 Neanderthals, we wouldn't be here. But
no, Greg, thank you very much, man.
Thanks,
this
man.
is insane.
No, I appreciate you guys making the trip out here, and we'll be seeing you this summer sometime. We'll make that happen.
Sounds good, man.
Appreciate it very much.
See ya.